Appalachian Mountains, a stretch of wilderness so vast most people never see what hides inside it. Out here, black bears rule the forest. But lately, something else has been stalking them. Local hunters found claw marks too deep for any known predator. Motion sensors pick up shapes that move like shadows. Too fast, too large, too quiet. We came here to track the bears. But the deeper we went into these woods, the clearer it became. We weren't the hunters anymore. The scream came through the headset just before dawn. One long, distorted note that tore through static and cut off mid-breath. For 3 full seconds, Dr. Elena Ward froze, her fingers hovering over the console in the field lab trailer parked outside Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Then the silence rushed in, thicker than fog, heavier than disbelief. She replayed the recording 3 times, but the sound never changed. That same single burst of terror followed by a faint metallic hum. Not an animal call, not a glitch. Something else, something alive. The signal had come from Ivy's collar, their tagged black bear fitted with a GPS transmitter barely the size of a matchbox. For weeks, the bear's movements had fascinated the team. Erratic paths, sudden altitude shifts, long pauses in areas with no food or water sources. But now the signal was coming from a restricted zone marked on park maps as Red Hollow Basin, an area closed since 1983 due to unresolved geological hazards. Elena stared at the coordinates on her laptop. "She's in the basin," she said aloud, mostly to herself. Marcus Hale looked up from his camera gear, eyes bleary from a night spent editing drone footage. "That's the off-limits section, right? Landslide danger." "Officially," Elena answered. "Unofficially, no one really knows what's down there." Noah Briggs, ex-Army and built like a granite wall, leaned against the doorframe, sipping instant coffee. "You're telling me a 400-pound bear just wandered into a dead zone people haven't stepped foot in for 40 years? "That's what the data says," Claire Donovan replied, scrolling through telemetry readouts. Temperature spikes, irregular heart rate, then that sound. Elena replayed the scream one last time. Beneath the obvious terror, there was another texture, almost harmonic, like wind blowing through a bottle, or something imitating wind. She closed the laptop. "Pack your gear. We leave in 30 minutes. The trail into Red Hollow wasn't on any official hiking map. It branched off a service road past Cades Cove, cutting through ridgelines steep enough to make even Noah swear under his breath. Fallen leaves muffled their steps, and mist drifted between the trees like steam from an unseen machine. Every so often, Marcus would pause to film, capturing B-roll for the documentary he'd been pitching to streaming networks. "Viewers love mystery," he'd told them on day 1, "especially when it's wrapped in science. Bears are the hook, but we give them something deeper, what the wilderness hides when no one's watching." At the time, Elena had agreed. Now she wasn't so sure. By noon, the trail narrowed to a deer path littered with animal tracks. Most were normal: raccoon, fox, a few fresh bear prints. Then Noah crouched beside a tree and frowned. "You ever seen claw marks this high?" He pointed nearly 10 feet up, where deep grooves slashed through bark as if carved by industrial machinery. Claire lifted her camera, zooming in. "That's not possible. Bears don't climb that way." Marcus grinned without humor. "Maybe we just discovered Appalachia's first mutant lumberjack." But Elena didn't laugh. She touched the bark. It was warm, almost feverish, despite the cool mountain air. They reached a plateau overlooking the basin by late afternoon. From above, Red Hollow looked like a bowl carved out of the earth. Dense forest circling a valley of pale stone and skeletal trees. A faint line of fog hovered just above the ground, unmoving despite the wind. "Looks dead," Claire whispered. "Correction," Marcus said, adjusting his lens. "Looks cinematic." Noah set down his pack. "We camp here. Good elevation, clear sight lines." Elena nodded. The ridge offered safety and visibility, but she couldn't shake the unease crawling beneath her ribs. There was something unnatural about the quiet. No birds, no insects, not even the hum of wind through leaves. As they assembled tents and checked instruments, the sun dipped behind the peaks. The world turned blue and then darker still. When the last light vanished, the fog below began to glow faintly, a bioluminescent shimmer like the surface of deep sea water. Marcus whispered, "Tell me that's not radioactive." Elena raised her Geiger counter. The needle stayed calm. Not radiation, something else. They ate in near silence. Freeze-dried stew, protein bars, coffee thick enough to chew. Around 9 p.m., Claire powered up the receiver to check Ivy's signal. The GPS pinged twice and then held steady, 2 miles southeast, still inside the basin, still moving slow. "Maybe she's injured," Claire said. Noah shook his head. "No bear moves that slow for that long unless it's being watched." A low thunder rolled in the distance, echoing through valleys like a heartbeat. After midnight, Elena woke to a sound that didn't belong. A tone, low and melodic, drifting through the trees. At first, she thought it was the wind singing across the ridge, but then the pitch changed, structured, deliberate, almost human. She slipped from her tent, flashlight cutting a thin path through mist. Marcus was already awake, camera in hand, recording the sound. "You hear it too," he murmured. "Where's it coming from?" He pointed toward the basin. "Down there." I boosted the mic. "Listen." Through the static, a pattern emerged. 3 rising notes, 2 falling, repeated again and again. Not random. Communication. Elena's heart pounded. Could be machinery, old mining vents. Marcus shook his head. Or it could be something answering. The sound faded, swallowed by distance, but the forest didn't relax. Every tree seemed to lean closer, every shadow stretched just a little too far. Back inside her tent, Elena lay awake until dawn, turning her father's compass over in her hands. The needle quivered, then drifted south, toward the basin. For the first time in 20 years, it didn't point north. Morning came gray and damp. Marcus was reviewing night footage, scrubbing through frames when he froze. "Elena, you need to see this." On the screen, the camp was visible under starlight. In the background, barely discernible, a figure stood among the trees, a silhouette tall and thin, watching. It didn't move. It didn't blink. When lightning flashed, it was gone. Noah stared at the footage. "Could be a trick of light." "Or someone following us," Claire whispered. "Who would follow us out here?" Elena said. No one answered. They packed their gear in silence and started toward the basin. The air grew heavier with every step, as if the mountain were holding its breath. By midday, the GPS marked them a half-mile from Ivy's last known position. The ground was soft, the air metallic. Then the smell hit, iron and decay. Ivy lay in a clearing ahead, or what was left of her. Her body had been arranged with impossible precision, limbs spread equidistant, ribcage opened like a dissected specimen. The skin around her wounds shimmered faintly, coated in a translucent film that pulsed like living tissue. Claire gagged and turned away. Marcus lowered his camera. For once, he couldn't record. Elena forced herself closer, kneeling beside the carcass. The collar transmitter lay nearby, twisted into a perfect spiral. Noah scanned the perimeter. Footprints, human, heavy tread, military issue. Elena's pulse hammered in her ears. No one should be here. No one. From somewhere deep in the forest came a single, echoing note, the same melodic tone from the night before, but louder now, closer, resonating through the trees like a warning. They backed away from the clearing without speaking. None of them looked back. When they reached camp at sunset, the radio crackled to life with Ivy's ID tag, though the color lay in Elena's pack, broken and cold. The mountains had started talking back. The fog never burned off the next morning. It hung between the trees like a ghost refusing to leave, thick enough that even the beams from their flashlights seemed to fold back on themselves. Noah led the way, rifle slung low, his boots sinking into wet earth with each step. "Smells like rain," he muttered. Elena checked her handheld anemometer. Barometric pressure's dropping, but that's not rain. Marcus glanced up, squinting through the mist. "Then what is it?" "Sulfur," she said. "The smell you get before a thunderstorm, or before something ruptures underground." They followed the faint signal from Ivy's collar, deeper into Red Hollow, the receiver emitting slow, rhythmic beeps that echoed through the trees like sonar. With every ping, Elena felt her nerves tighten. Claire stayed close behind, clutching the tablet that displayed the signal data. "You ever feel like the forest is listening?" she asked softly. Marcus gave a dry laugh. "Always. That's how you know it's real wilderness." But Elena didn't laugh. She'd spent years studying wildlife patterns, tracking apex predators across North America, and she knew what natural silence sounded like. This wasn't that. This was something waiting. They reached an old ranger outpost by noon, a skeleton of wood and rust perched on the edge of a collapsed ridgeline. A faded sign above the door still read, "Red Hollow Station closed since 1983. Noah kicked at the lock. It gave way easily. The air inside was stale, carrying a faint metallic tang that reminded Elena of blood and batteries. Inside, papers were scattered across the floor, handwritten reports eaten by mildew. Claire crouched to examine one that hadn't fully decayed. "It's a wildlife log," she said. "Last entry, August 17th, 1983, mentions unidentified species migration and structural vibrations recorded overnight." Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "Vibrations?" "Could mean a tremor," Elena said, "or something moving underground." Noah swept his flashlight across the far wall. "Or someone left in a hurry." 3 deep gouges slashed through the wooden planks, parallel, evenly spaced, higher than a man could reach. Dried resin clung to the edges like old sap. Claire swallowed hard. "That's not structural damage." Elena stared at the marks. The spacing was identical to what they'd seen on the tree the day before. Marcus lifted his camera and began recording again. "If this is what killed the bear, people are going to lose their minds." Noah shot him a look. "People are going to lose their lives if you don't stop announcing our position." Outside, the fog was thickening. The sky dimmed, though it wasn't yet afternoon. Elena pulled out her father's compass, hoping for direction, but the needle spun aimlessly, twitching like it was caught in a magnetic storm. She slipped it back into her pocket, hiding her unease. "Let's move," she said. "We're burning daylight." The trail down into the basin was steep and littered with shale fragments that crumbled under their boots. As they descended, the forest changed. The trees gnarled and pale, the soil turning from brown to gray. The air smelled faintly of ozone and rust. Marcus filmed continuously, narrating under his breath. Red Hollow Basin, 3:17 p.m. Team descending toward anomaly zone. Visibility low, wind negligible. Subject, environmental irregularities possibly linked to... He trailed off. You feel that? The ground trembled. Just a whisper, a subtle pulse like the mountain itself was breathing. It lasted 3 seconds, then stopped. Noah raised his head. That wasn't thunder. From somewhere deep in the valley came a hollow boom, followed by a faint echo that rolled through the hills like a slow drumbeat. Then silence again. Elena crouched, pressing her palm to the ground. It was warm. Too warm. She stood quickly. We're leaving the basin before nightfall, no arguments. But there were none. By the time they reached a small plateau to set up camp, the sun was a smear of red behind the peaks. Noah gathered wood while Claire calibrated sensors around the perimeter, motion detectors, seismic monitors, infrared trip beams. Marcus set up 2 static cameras facing the valley floor. Elena kept watch, eyes tracing the horizon. From here, she could see the outline of the basin spreading outward like a crater, and beyond that, the faint remains of industrial structures, collapsed buildings, rusted pipes, and the skeletal framework of a tower half swallowed by the forest. Mining equipment, Marcus said, following her gaze. Must have been uranium. Not officially, Elena replied. Records listed as limestone extraction, but my father's research said otherwise. Claire looked up. Your father worked here? Elena hesitated. He was a geological inspector in the late 70s. His last assignment was near here. He never came back. Marcus lowered his camera. You think what happened to him could be connected to this? I think the mountains remember everything, she said quietly. After dinner, thunderheads gathered over the peaks. The team sat near the fire, watching lightning crawl across the sky in silence. Then the receivers began to beep, slow at first, then faster. Claire checked the signal. That's Ivy's collar. It's moving again. Noah frowned. Impossible. We bagged it. Elena leaned over her shoulder. The screen showed the transmitter's icon pulsing from inside the basin, 2 miles east. The collar, still broadcasting from somewhere else. Marcus stood, camera in hand. We should check it out. No, Elena said sharply, not at night. But then the humming started again. The same melody they'd heard before. Louder this time. Closer. It came from the direction of the basin, echoing through the ravine like a choir sung through stone. Claire's voice trembled. That's not wind. Noah chambered around into his rifle. Whatever it is, it knows we're here. The humming grew more complex, weaving through pitches and tones like a language. The Geiger counter began to tick, softly at first, then faster, though radiation levels barely changed. Elena whispered, "It's electromagnetic." Marcus's voice was low, fascinated. "You mean it's communicating?" Lightning split the sky. For a brief moment they saw movement on the opposite ridge, a cluster of shapes standing upright, motionless, too tall to be human, too slender to be trees. When the lightning faded, the ridge was empty. Claire backed away from the edge. "We should go, now." Noah didn't answer. He was staring down the sightline of his rifle, breathing hard. "Something's moving," he whispered. Then the forest went silent again. They didn't sleep. Elena sat outside her tent long after the others retreated, the compass heavy in her hand. The needle still spun, but when she turned it toward the basin, it slowed and held steady, pointing directly toward the ruins. She thought about her father, about the old report she'd found years ago describing unexplained interference in magnetic readings. She remembered the note scrawled in his handwriting across the margin, "If you ever come here, don't follow the signal." Now, decades later, she was doing exactly that. The fire crackled low. Somewhere in the distance, a branch snapped. Then another. Elena rose quietly, scanning the darkness. Nothing moved. And then, just beyond the flickering reach of the firelight, she saw it, something glinting in the dirt near the edge of camp. She knelt and brushed away the soil. A metal tag, half buried. Stamped into its surface was a single word: Ward, her father's last name. The metal was cold, but the ground beneath it was warm to the touch. Lightning flashed again, and for one impossible instant, the fog shimmered with faint blue light, like the glow of something breathing beneath the earth. Elena stared into the basin, heart pounding. Something was alive down there, and it was moving closer. For a long moment, Elena simply stared at the metal tag cupped in her palm. The engraved letters, WARD, caught the firelight like a mirror to the past. It couldn't be coincidence. This ridge was miles from any recorded survey station, and yet here it was, buried inches beneath the soil, as if someone had placed it there deliberately, waiting for her to find it. She slipped it into her pocket before the others saw. The fire crackled once, then died with a sigh. Noah emerged from his tent, rifle in hand. "You hear something?" "Nothing," she lied, but the air said otherwise. It felt charged, humming faintly against her skin. A few minutes later, Marcus stumbled out, camera already rolling. "The fog's thicker," he muttered. "Makes for great atmosphere, though." Claire followed, clutching her laptop like a life preserver. "The motion sensors are tripping every few minutes, but nothing shows on video." "Could be animals," Elena offered. "Then why are the readings rhythmic?" Claire said. "Exactly 30-second intervals, like footsteps circling the camp." Marcus looked up sharply. "You're saying something's walking around us?" She didn't answer. They waited in silence, each of them listening. The forest made no sound at all. Near 2 a.m., the rhythmic pulse returned, faint tremors underfoot that matched the sensor pattern perfectly. Noah signaled for lights off. The camp plunged into darkness. In the blackness, Elena's heart counted the beats. 1, 2, 3, pause. Again. Something was pacing just beyond sight. A flash of lightning revealed a silhouette at the tree line, tall, angular, wrong in its proportions. By the time their eyes adjusted, it was gone. Marcus whispered, "Tell me you saw that." "I saw something," Noah said. "Could have been a tree." Trees don't move against the wind. They held position for half an hour, weapons ready, until the tremors faded. When at last the sensors went quiet, the exhaustion hit all at once. Claire crawled into her tent, trembling. Marcus stayed up to review footage frame by frame. At 3:17 a.m., he froze the video. "Guys," he called softly, "you might want to look at this." On the playback, during the lightning strike, the silhouette stood between two oaks, but zooming closer revealed a second detail, another faint outline behind it, crouched low, eyes reflecting like an animal's. Then the frame distorted into static. Noah exhaled slowly. "Whatever that is, it's not alone." Elena rubbed her temples. "We break camp at first light, no arguments." Morning came late and gray. They moved quickly, packing in near silence, eyes scanning the fog that refused to lift. The trail down toward the valley was slippery, every step sinking into soft ground. that smelled faintly metallic. About a quarter-mile from camp, Noah stopped abruptly and knelt. Fresh prints. He brushed aside wet leaves, deep impressions, boot soles, size 11, standard military tread, led straight from the trees toward where they'd slept. Claire's face drained of color. Someone was in the camp? Or something wearing boots, Noah said grimly. They followed the trail until it vanished at a streambed. The water was running red from iron sediment, or so Elena hoped. Marcus filmed in silence, his usual commentary gone. "This isn't just nature acting weird," he muttered. "Someone's hiding something out here." Elena didn't reply. The name tag in her pocket seemed to grow heavier with each step. By midday, thunder rolled again. They reached the valley floor, a place the maps showed as blank white space. Here, vegetation thinned until only gray ferns and brittle saplings remained. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in less than 5 minutes. Noah adjusted his rifle strap. "Feels like walking into a freezer." "Temperature inversion," Elena said automatically, though she didn't believe it. Ahead lay the remains of industrial ruins, rusted conveyors, broken concrete walls, and a half-collapsed sign that once read, "Red Hollow Mining Co." Claire filmed the surroundings. "I thought this place was sealed off decades ago." "It was," Elena said, "which means someone reopened it." They entered what was left of the main building. Sunlight filtered through holes in the roof, illuminating dust motes that shimmered like ash. Old equipment lay scattered, radiation detectors, clipboards, a row of lockers rusted shut. Noah forced one open with his knife. Inside hung a tattered safety vest with a faded patch. "Bastion Project." Marcus raised a brow. "That ring a bell?" Elena hesitated. "My father mentioned that name once. Said it wasn't mining, said it was containment." Before Marcus could reply, Claire's voice cracked through the stillness. "You need to see this." At the far end of the hall, the concrete floor was split by a fissure nearly 3 feet wide. From its depths came a slow exhalation of warm air, carrying that same humming resonance they'd heard in the night. The sound vibrated in their chests, almost like a second heartbeat. Marcus leaned over with his microphone. "You're hearing this, right? That's inside the ground." Elena nodded, forcing calm. "Record everything. Then we're leaving." But as she turned, something glinted near the crack, another metal tag, half buried in dust. She bent and brushed it off. The letters were faded but readable. E. Ward, her own initials. For a moment she couldn't breathe. It looked decades old, edges corroded, as if it had been there since long before she was born. Noah's voice came faintly. "Elena, you okay?" She pocketed it quickly. "Fine, let's move." They exited into open air just as rain began to fall. Slow, deliberate drops that smelled of iron. The valley floor shimmered under the storm, fog rising from the ground in rolling sheets. Claire scanned the perimeter with her thermal camera. "You're not going to like this." On the display, heat signatures flared, 4 shapes forming a semicircle around them, motionless, each about 7 feet tall. Noah raised his rifle. "Positions?" "They're not closing in," Claire whispered. "They're mirroring us." Elena took the tablet. The shapes weren't random. They matched their own spacing exactly, as if something invisible was copying their formation. When Marcus moved, one of the signatures moved in perfect sync. He backed away, shaking his head. "That's impossible." The humming deepened, the tone now pulsing through the air like underwater thunder. Lightning flashed, white light filling the basin. For one heartbeat the shapes appeared, Tall, sinewy forms covered in slick gray skin, eyes reflecting silver. Then darkness swallowed them again. The thunderclap hit seconds later, knocking sound from the world. When their hearing returned, the thermal screen was empty. They ran. Branches tore at their clothes as they scrambled up the ridge, lungs burning, hearts hammering in unison with the storm. The humming followed, sometimes near, sometimes impossibly far. Always there. By the time they reached higher ground, the rain had eased, leaving the forest glistening like glass. Noah scanned the trees. Anyone hurt? No one answered. Marcus collapsed to his knees, camera still clutched in white knuckles. "Tell me you got that on film," Claire said, voice breaking. He shook his head. "Static, just static." Elena wiped water from her face. "We regroup. No more chasing signals, no more night hikes. We go back to the trailhead tomorrow." But even as she said it, she knew they wouldn't. None of them could walk away now, not after seeing what they'd seen. And deep beneath the ridge, the mountain exhaled again. Slow, patient, alive. Elena felt the vibration travel through her boots, up her legs, into her spine. It wasn't the earth breathing. It was something waiting to be remembered. Dusk settled over the ridge like an eclipse, swallowing every trace of color. The storm had passed, but the world still felt soaked in electricity. Their campfire crackled weakly, more smoke than flame, painting thin orange ghosts on their faces. No one spoke for a long time. They were too busy listening to the silence, to the memory of the humming, to the sound of their own nerves fraying. Finally, Marcus broke the spell. "We can't just pretend that didn't happen. Those things down there, whatever they were, this is proof, real proof." Noah gave a dry laugh that held no humor. "Proof of what? That the woods are haunted? That radiation makes monsters? I just saw something mimic the way I moved, Marcus. You really want to film a sequel to that?" "People need to know," Marcus said quietly. "The park, the government. Somebody's been hiding this place for 40 years. Elena stared into the fire, its glow reflected in her eyes. "They didn't hide it," she said. "They sealed it." The others looked at her. She hesitated, then opened her notebook. Inside, tucked between field reports, was a page torn from an old journal. Her father's handwriting slanted and urgent, red hollow, containment zone. "Do not disturb the substrata, it learns." Claire read the line twice, lips moving soundlessly. "It learns," she whispered. "Learns what?" Elena shut the book. "Us." Lightning flickered far away over the valley. The thunder came late, muffled, as if the mountains were swallowing the sound. Around 10 p.m., Claire's sensors began to misbehave again. The motion detectors blinked on and off, each pulse out of sync with the others. "It's not wind," she said. "Checking connections. It's interference. EM spikes, massive ones." Noah adjusted his rifle strap. "Then we go dark, pull the batteries, shut everything down." They killed every light but the fire. The forest responded instantly, the quiet folding in like a held breath. Marcus whispered, "You hear that?" Elena strained to listen. Beneath the hiss of rain on leaves came a new sound, faint clicking like pebbles tapping together in a slow, deliberate rhythm. It moved around them in a wide circle. Claire grabbed the receiver. "Whatever's out there is moving clockwise." "How many?" Noah asked. 4, no, 5 signals. Elena's pulse hammered. "Same number of heat signatures we saw earlier." The clicking stopped. Then from somewhere downhill came the low harmonic tone again. 3 notes rising, 2 falling. The same pattern Ivy's color had transmitted just before the scream. Marcus lifted his camera instinctively. "Recording," Elena hissed. "Turn it off." But the camera had already powered on, and with it, every motion sensor around camp flared back to life. Their lights strobed against the trees in rapid flashes. White, green, white. For an instant, something moved between the trunks, tall and glistening, its limbs bending at wrong angles before the darkness swallowed it again. Claire screamed. Noah fired once, the gunshot exploding the night. The echo rolled down into the basin and came back warped, as if the valley were answering. "Pack up!" Elena shouted. "Move now!" They grabbed what they could, packs, data drives, the compass, the camera, and plunged into the trees. The rain returned in a sudden torrent, turning soil to slick clay. Branches whipped across their faces. Behind them, the humming rose in pitch until it vibrated through their bones. Noah led the way uphill toward higher ground. Every few seconds he glanced back, muzzle sweeping the dark. "They're following," he said between breaths. "Close." Marcus slipped, his camera smashing against a rock. The screen shattered, but the red record light stayed on. "Leave it," Elena yelled. "Not a chance." He yanked it free and kept running. The trail narrowed to a ravine where runoff water poured in thin streams. Claire's tablet beeped wildly, GPS malfunctioning, compass spinning. "We're losing direction." "Follow the ridgeline," Noah shouted. "Keep the wind at your back." They pushed upward, muscles burning. Then the ground trembled again, just once, hard enough to throw them off balance. From below came a muffled roar, deep and resonant as if the mountain itself were growling. The trees shook, raining water and dead leaves. Elena looked back and froze. Down in the basin, lights were moving, 5, 6, maybe more, pale orbs gliding through the fog like submerged lanterns. They traced geometric paths, forming circles that pulsed in and out of sync with the thunder. Claire saw it too. "They're arranging themselves." Marcus raised the damaged camera, capturing one final frame before the lens cracked completely. "They're not chasing us," he whispered. "They're performing something." Noah grabbed his shoulder. "Then let's not stay for the encore." They reached the ridge close to midnight, soaked and shaking. The storm drifted east, leaving only mist and the faint glow of lightning far away. They collapsed near the same spot where they'd camped the night before. Noah checked his rifle, 2 rounds left. Claire sat trembling beside her pack, whispering to herself, "We shouldn't have come. We shouldn't have come." Elena crouched, forcing her voice steady. "We regroup, sleep in shifts. Tomorrow we hike back to the truck, understood?" Marcus didn't answer. He was staring into the darkness beyond the ridge. "You hear that?" he said. At first, none of them did. Then it came, a faint metallic rhythm like chains dragging over stone. It was coming from the valley floor, repeating every few seconds, mechanical but off, almost like breathing. Elena lifted her father's compass. The needle trembled, then turned, not north, not south, but directly toward the sound. "Whatever's down there," she said softly. "It's awake." Lightning flared once more, painting the basin in ghost light. For the briefest heartbeat, they saw a new shape rising from the fog, massive, serpentine, the suggestion of limbs stretching outward like a creature uncoiling after a long sleep. Then darkness reclaimed everything. The sound stopped. The forest went utterly still. Marcus whispered, "Please tell me that was thunder." Elena didn't answer. She was staring at the compass, where the needle had stopped spinning at last, locked in place, pointing straight toward Red Hollow. Hours later, while the others tried to rest, Elena sat alone, recording a field log by the dying fire. This is Dr. Elena Ward, 0346 a.m. Coordinates approximate, elevation 1260. Observed unknown entities exhibiting organized, possibly imitative behavior. Electromagnetic interference confirmed. Team shaken but alive. Will attempt extraction at first light. She paused, staring at the recorder. If anyone finds this, don't come here. Red Hollow isn't a wildlife anomaly. It's something older. She clicked the recorder off and listened to the wind shift through the trees. For a second, she thought she heard her father's voice inside it, soft, melodic, humming the same 3 rising notes and 2 falling. Elena closed her eyes. The mountain was singing again. By dawn, the fog had thickened to milk. When she looked toward the basin, the forest appeared perfectly ordinary. No lights, no figures, no sound. But deep beneath the quiet, she could feel it. The pulse in the ground, steady and patient, like a heartbeat waiting for its next victim. She packed the recorder, the compass, and her father's tag into her bag. Whatever hunted the bears was now hunting them, and she intended to find out why. The camera's red light blinked one last time before dying, capturing a final frame of the ridge shrouded in mist. Somewhere below, a new signal began to beep on the receiver. Slow, steady, familiar. Ivy's collar, moving again, but they'd buried it 2 days ago. Elena looked up, eyes wide, the chill running straight through to her bones. The mountain wasn't done with them yet, and with that realization, part 1 ended, not with escape, but with the certainty that what waited beneath the Appalachians wasn't content to stay buried forever. If this first chapter pulled you in, if the mountains, the mystery, and the fear of what's still hunting out there kept you reading, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps bring the next chapter, Part 2, The Silent Valley, to life soon. The rain had stopped by morning, but the forest didn't feel cleaner. It felt emptier. Fog coiled through the trees like breath from something sleeping just below the surface. When Elena opened her tent, she found Marcus already awake, sitting near the ashes of the fire with his broken camera on his lap. The lens was cracked, the casing dented, but the red indicator light still blinked stubbornly as if refusing to die. "Did you sleep?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not really, kept hearing things." "What kind of things?" He shrugged. "Footsteps, maybe, or the mountain settling. Hard to tell anymore." Noah emerged next, silent as always, rifle slung over his shoulder. He looked worse than the rest, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. Claire was the last to appear, clutching her laptop and a thermos of instant coffee like they were both lifelines. "Signal's still active," she said immediately. "Ivy's collar, same frequency, moving southeast." Elena frowned. "How far?" "About a mile." "That's impossible. We buried it." "I know," Claire said, "but it's moving." They exchanged glances that said everything without words. Something down there was using the collar. The descent back toward the basin was quieter this time, the forest subdued, almost respectful. The light filtering through the canopy was thin and cold, stripped of warmth. Every few hundred feet, Noah stopped to mark their route with orange survey tape. "Just in case we have to find our way out fast," he muttered. They reached the valley floor before noon. It looked different now. Too neat, too still. The fog had thinned, revealing the skeletal ruins of the mining site. The smell of rust and wet stone hung heavy in the air. Elena led them toward the source of the signal. The receiver's rhythmic ping seemed louder than it should have been, echoing off the concrete walls like sonar. Then, from behind a collapsed shack, Claire gasped. The collar lay there, wrapped around a tree branch like a noose, but it wasn't just the collar. Below it, scratched into the bark with something sharp, were 5 words written in shaky block letters. "She knows you're here, Elena." Marcus lowered his camera slowly. "Tell me that's a joke." Elena's stomach turned cold. The handwriting was familiar. Not her father's, but similar, like someone trying to imitate it. Noah scanned the area with his rifle. "We're not alone." "Maybe someone's following us," Claire said, her voice thin. "That guy from the ridge, the silhouette we saw, maybe he's real. Or maybe it's the same thing that tore apart the bear," Noah said. Elena crouched near the words, tracing them with her eyes, but not daring to touch them. "We're being warned." "Or baited," Marcus added quietly. By early afternoon, the air grew heavier, oppressive, as if the valley itself were pressing down on them. Claire monitored her tablet. The electromagnetic readings spiked wildly. "This entire area's like a power grid," she said, "but there's no source, no generators, no equipment, nothing." Elena's voice was low. "Then something else is producing it." They followed the old mining tracks that curved deeper into the valley, the rails rusted but intact. Moss had grown over the ties, and puddles of murky water reflected their faces like distorted mirrors. At one point, Marcus stopped and pointed to the ground. "Look at that." Footprints, large, human-shaped, but the spacing was off. Too long, too deliberate. The tracks led straight towards the entrance of an underground shaft, partially hidden by overgrown vines. Elena felt her chest tighten. That wasn't open before. Noah cleared the entrance with his rifle and shined his flashlight inside. The tunnel sloped downward, vanishing into blackness. The light caught on something metallic, a chain hanging from the ceiling, swaying slightly as if recently disturbed. Marcus adjusted his camera. "If you're going in, I'm filming it." Elena gave him a look. "We're not going in, not yet." Claire frowned at her monitor. "I'm getting signal interference again. It's stronger here than anywhere else." "Strong enough to record?" Marcus asked. "Barely." "But it's pulsing." "Like a heartbeat," Elena said. No one corrected her. They camped that night near the entrance of the shaft. The air was cold enough that their breath turned white. Elena tried to catalog their observations, but every note felt hollow, detached. She couldn't shake the feeling that the valley was studying them. Claire worked quietly on her laptop, analyzing the magnetic readings. "It's like the field's intelligent," she said finally. "It changes whenever we move equipment, like it's reacting to us." Marcus snorted. "You're saying the mountain's alive?" "I'm saying it's aware." Noah, sitting apart from them, looked up from cleaning his rifle. "Doesn't matter if it's alive or dead. It's dangerous." Elena closed her notebook. "Tomorrow we find out where those tunnels go. If there's any chance my father's team left records down there, we need to see them." Noah frowned. "You think your father made it this far?" "I think he tried." Sometime after midnight, a sound woke her. Not the humming this time. Something else, like stone grinding against stone, slow and heavy. It came from the shaft. She stepped outside her tent, the cold biting through her jacket. The moonlight was dim, barely enough to see. The chain hanging at the tunnel entrance was moving, swaying rhythmically, though there was no wind. "Elena." She turned. Marcus stood at the edge of the camp, his face pale in the light. "You hear it too?" he whispered. Before she could answer, the chain stopped. Then a single metallic clink echoed up from deep within the tunnel. A moment later, the hum returned, faint at first, then building, resonating through the ground. The same pattern, 3 rising tones, 2 falling. Elena gripped her father's compass. The needle spun faster than she'd ever seen, and beneath the hum came a new sound, a voice distorted but unmistakably human, calling her name from inside the dark. Elena! She froze. It wasn't possible. The voice was her father's. Elena! The voice drifted out of the tunnel again, low, drawn out, almost tender. Marcus stepped closer, camera trembling in his hands. You heard that, right? Tell me you heard that. Elena nodded slowly, every instinct screaming at her to run. But the sound, it wasn't just sound. It carried familiarity, cadence, memory. Her father had always called her name that way when she was little. Soft on the first syllable, fading on the second, like a secret spoken only for her. She swallowed hard. No one goes near that tunnel, she ordered. Noah tightened his grip on his rifle. Wasn't planning to. The chain at the entrance stopped swaying. The air felt heavy again, pressing against their chests. Then the voice returned, distorted this time, as if underwater. Help me. Marcus cursed under his breath. That's not wind, that's language. Claire's hands shook as she adjusted her recorder. It's matching human speech frequency, but the modulation's wrong, too slow. Could be playback, Noah said. Somebody trying to mess with us. Or an echo, Elena murmured, though she didn't believe it. The humming intensified, vibrating through the soil beneath their boots. Claire's monitor flared, its sensors spiking off the charts. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sound cut off. Silence. Noah exhaled. We're leaving. Now. Elena looked toward the tunnel one last time. The chain was still. The air was calm, but something deep inside whispered for her to stay. She turned away anyway. They broke camp before sunrise. The fog had thickened overnight, swallowing the ruins until they looked like ghosts of themselves. The valley's air was metallic again, tasting faintly of burnt copper. As they climbed back toward the ridge, Claire's tablet began to flicker. Static rippled across the screen. We're getting interference again. Elena frowned. From what? I don't know, Claire said. But it's following us. Marcus scanned the tree line. Don't say that. I'm serious. Every few seconds it spikes, see? She showed them the graph. The EM levels rose and fell in exact rhythm with their footsteps. Noah muttered, like it's pacing us. At the ridgeline, Elena stopped to catch her breath. From here, the valley stretched below, a pale scar under the fog. Even in daylight, it didn't look natural. The vegetation was the wrong shade of green, the ground too smooth, like something had burned away the topsoil decades ago and it had never healed. She pulled out her compass. The needle spun, then froze, pointing back toward the valley floor. Still south, Marcus said, watching over her shoulder. It's not pointing south, she said quietly. It's pointing down. They reached the old ranger outpost by midday. The air inside was damp and cold, thick with the smell of mold and metal. Dust motes drifted through the dim light like snowflakes. Noah checked the perimeter while the others rested. Marcus crouched near the desk, brushing debris aside to uncover a stack of weathered files. Looks like inspection logs, he said. Radiation reports, environmental data, all from 1983. Claire joined him. Same year the station was shut down. Elena flipped through the papers. Most were water damaged, but one page caught her attention. A report stamped Project Bastion, confidential. She read aloud, Containment breach at Shaft C. 2 personnel missing. Unknown biological contaminant detected. Evacuation ordered. Marcus's camera beeped as it came back to life unexpectedly. The battery indicator blinked full, though it had been nearly dead that morning. "Did you charge this?" he asked. "No," Claire said. "Why?" "Because it's recording by itself." The lens turned toward the wall without him touching it. Elena felt her skin crawl. "Turn it off." "I can't," he said. "It's not responding." The camera kept panning, focusing slowly on a spot above the desk. There, carved faintly into the wood, were the same 5 words they'd found in the valley. "She knows you're here, Elena." The letters glowed faintly under the dim light, as if freshly burned. Marcus dropped the camera. Nope, we're done." Noah grabbed it and slammed it shut. The light died instantly. Elena stared at the carving. "Someone or something wants us to stay." "Or wants you," Claire whispered. They moved on before dark. No one wanted to spend another night near the outpost. The path ahead followed a narrow ravine cutting deeper into the mountains. Water trickled down from unseen springs, the sound eerily like whispering voices. Marcus filmed again, despite his fear. "Document everything," he said quietly, mostly to himself. "If we vanish, at least there's evidence." Elena walked ahead with her compass in one hand, the receiver in the other. The collar signal had vanished again, replaced by a different frequency, a slow, repeating pulse that seemed almost alive. "Where's it coming from?" Noah asked. "Below us," she said. They followed the ravine until it opened into another clearing, smaller, circular, the ground littered with metallic fragments. Claire bent to pick one up. "Looks like old mining equipment, melted." Noah crouched beside her. "Melted? From what?" "Not heat," she said. "Something else. Molecular corrosion." Elena's receiver beeped once, loudly, then went silent. Marcus whispered, "What was that?" Before she could answer, the air filled with the same metallic tone they'd heard near the tunnel, 3 rising notes, 2 falling. Only this time, the sound came from all around them. Claire spun, holding up the sensor. "Multiple sources! It's everywhere!" Noah shouted. "Positions!" The ground beneath them trembled. A shadow flickered at the edge of the clearing, tall, fluid, almost translucent. Then another, and another. They moved with uncanny grace, bending light around their bodies. Marcus fumbled with his camera. "I've got them. Holy hell, they're—" The screen went white. The humming cut off. When their vision cleared, the clearing was empty again. Noah swept the rifle left to right. "Everyone okay?" Claire nodded shakily. "Yeah, I think so." Marcus was pale, his hands trembling. I saw them. They weren't animals. They were reflections, like people made of glass." Elena looked down. Her compass needle pointed directly at her feet. Something beneath them was calling. They left the clearing and found an overgrown path leading toward another ridge. As they climbed, the fog parted just enough to reveal the valley stretching below. A perfect circle carved into the mountains, symmetrical and impossibly precise. Claire whispered, "That's not natural formation." "No," Elena said. "It's a crater." Marcus looked at her. "From what?" "Not from above," she said. "From below." Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the basin. For a heartbeat, they saw the fog ripple outward like something breathing beneath it. Noah chambered another round. "If this thing's alive, we're standing on its skin." No one argued. The climb up the ridge took longer than expected. Every footstep sank into damp soil. the earth giving way like it didn't want to hold their weight. By the time they reached the top, the fog had rolled in again, thicker and more suffocating than before. Marcus bent over, breathing hard. "This air's wrong. It tastes like iron." Claire wiped mud from her face. "That's because it is iron. The soil's magnetized." Elena's compass twitched violently in her hand, its needle jerking from side to side. They stopped when they saw the structure. It sat halfway down the opposite slope, half buried in vines. A concrete bunker, rectangular with faded stenciled letters barely visible across its surface. Noah raised his rifle. "Government facility, maybe a containment site." Elena read aloud, voice barely above a whisper. "Bastion sub-level access. Restricted area." Marcus exhaled. "So it's real, all of it?" Claire knelt near the entrance, brushing away the moss that covered a control panel. "It's locked, electronic, but there's no power." "Then how's the panel still warm?" Noah asked, pressing his fingers against the metal. They exchanged glances. "Something's running in there," Elena said. "We need to know what." Noah frowned. "You sure you want to open that door?" "I don't want to," she said, "but I have to." The main door wouldn't budge, but a side hatch had rusted loose enough for Noah to pry open with his knife. A stale rush of air spilled out, heavy with the scent of ozone and decay. Marcus adjusted his headlamp. "It's colder inside." "Air pressure drop," Claire said. "Means it's sealed deeper down." They entered single file. The narrow corridor led downward, reinforced concrete walls glistening with condensation. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally, like the space was much larger than it looked. Halfway down, Claire's tablet pinged, then froze, the display filling with static. "Interference is maxed out," she said. "I'm losing all telemetry." "Keep recording anyway," Elena said. "We need data." The passage opened into a wide chamber lined with rusted equipment, shelves of instruments, radiation suits, and collapsed desks filled the space. A cracked sign above the far door read, "Biological Study Wing. Access restricted." Marcus swung his camera around. "This looks like a lab." "Not just any lab," Elena said. "Look at this." She pointed to a series of glass containers stacked against the wall, some shattered, others intact but clouded with dark residue. Inside one of the unbroken ones floated something shapeless, like melted wax suspended in amber fluid. Claire stepped closer. "Oh my God, it's organic!" Noah grimaced. "Or it was." The hum began again, faint, almost imperceptible. This time it came from the walls. Marcus turned toward a console still faintly lit. "Power's intermittent, but something's running." Elena brushed dust from the monitor. Text flickered to life. "Bastion Project, Phase 3, Adaptive Structure. Research status, incomplete personnel. Dr. H. Ward, lead investigator." Elena froze. "My father," Claire stared. "He worked here." Elena touched the screen as if it could answer her. "He didn't just investigate the mines, he ran the project." Noah's voice was low. "What the hell were they building?" Marcus scrolled through the logs. "Not building, studying. Listen to this entry." He read aloud. "Subject exhibits mimicry at molecular level. No longer requires host tissue. Electromagnetic field extends beyond containment. Recommend immediate termination of Phase 3 before entity reaches self-awareness." Marcus stopped reading. "This was dated 2 days before the facility was shut down?" Elena felt the chill crawl down her spine. They didn't shut it down fast enough. The hum deepened. One of the glass tanks rattled. The fluid inside shimmered faintly, like something moving beneath the surface. Noah stepped back, rifle ready. "What's causing that?" Claire's voice trembled. "Residual charge, maybe, or heat reaction." The tank cracked just once, but the sound was enough to make everyone flinch. A hairline fracture snaked across the glass. Marcus backed up. "Okay, we've seen enough." Elena shook her head. "We need the records. My father's data could explain what's happening out there." She crossed the room toward a terminal still flickering with intermittent power. The screen displayed hundreds of encrypted logs, each marked with the Bastion insignia. She plugged in Claire's drive. "Hurry," Noah said. A low rumble rolled through the floor, like machinery awakening after decades of sleep. Dust fell from the ceiling. The crack in the tank widened. "Elena, now," Marcus shouted. The download bar crept across the screen. 35%, 47%, 63%. As the hum grew deafening, the glass splintered with a wet snap. Something moved inside the tank. It pressed against the glass, shapeless but heavy, leaving an imprint like a human hand. The hum shifted pitch. No longer mechanical. It sounded like breathing. Noah fired once. The glass shattered. A surge of black fluid burst out, hitting the floor with a hiss that filled the air with chemical smoke. The lights flickered, strobed, then died. "Run!" They bolted for the corridor as the sound behind them grew, a wet, dragging noise followed by sharp impacts on concrete. The tunnel walls pulsed faintly, veins of light snaking through cracks like veins under skin. Claire screamed, "It's following us!" Noah turned, fired twice more. The bullets sparked off the walls, but something in the dark moved faster than sight. The rifle jammed. "Leave it!" Elena yelled. They reached the hatch just as the hum peaked into a high-pitched wail. Marcus shoved Claire through first, then Elena, then Noah. As he climbed out, a tendril of dark liquid snapped upward, grazing his leg. He hit the ground hard, gasping. They slammed the hatch shut. The noise on the other side faded into muffled echoes. For a long time, none of them spoke. Marcus sat trembling, clutching his leg where the liquid had touched him. The fabric of his pants smoked faintly, but the skin underneath looked untouched. Claire reached for him. "You okay?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, just burned through the fabric. Didn't hurt." Elena met Noah's eyes. "Whatever that thing was, it's not dead." He wiped sweat from his face. "Then we stay above ground from now on." But even as he said it, the ground beneath them vibrated again. Slow, rhythmic pulses like the beating of a distant heart. Elena looked back toward the sealed hatch. The humming inside was faint but steady, rising and falling in that same pattern she'd grown to dread. 3 up, 2 down, her father's pattern. They didn't stop running until the bunker was a gray blur behind them. The air outside was colder now, sharp with ozone, as though the entire valley had exhaled. No one spoke. No one dared to. When they reached the upper ridge, the fog was gone. In its place was silence. Pure, empty silence that made even the smallest breath sound like a trespass. Marcus limped, his legs still smoking faintly where the substance had grazed him. Claire kept glancing back at him, worry etched deep across her face. "You sure it doesn't hurt?" she asked. He nodded, though sweat dripped down his temple. "Feels like pins and needles, that's all." Elena studied him. "Let me see." He hesitated before rolling up the torn fabric. The skin beneath was smooth, too smooth, paler than it should have been, almost translucent, with faint lines of light running just beneath the surface. Claire gasped, "Oh my God!" Marcus pulled the fabric down quickly. It's fine, just chemical irritation. Noah shook his head. That's not irritation, that's infection, or whatever passes for it here. Elena crouched beside him. Marcus, if it's spreading, we need to know. He met her eyes. I said it's fine. But she saw the flicker of fear he tried to hide. They made camp near the ridge, too exhausted to climb further. The sky had turned a bruised purple, the moon hazy behind the clouds. Noah took first watch, sitting with his rifle across his knees, eyes fixed on the distant ruins. Elena sat apart from the others, reviewing the drive they'd stolen from the lab. The files were corrupted, dozens of data strings scrambled into nonsense, but one log had survived. It was labeled Ward Entry 17. She pressed play. Static filled the air for several seconds. Then a voice broke through, calm, methodical, and heartbreakingly familiar. If this recording is found, containment has failed. The organism has adapted beyond our projections. It mimics not only cellular structures, but electromagnetic patterns, conscious thought itself. Elena froze, her father's voice. It doesn't feed in the traditional sense. It learns. It observes. Every attempt to destroy it has only taught it how to survive. If the humming begins, it's already listening. The recording cracked with distortion, but the last sentence was clear. Elena, if you ever come here, don't follow the signal. It knows our bloodline. It remembers us. The file ended. Her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. He'd known she would come. He'd known this wasn't over. Claire's voice broke the silence. Elena, what was that? She wiped her eyes quickly. Just evidence. Of what? That my father didn't die down there. Not exactly. At 2 a.m., Noah shook her awake. Something's moving near the tree line. Elena grabbed her flashlight. The beam caught the glint of eyes reflecting from the dark, dozens of them, scattered through the forest. Animals, she whispered. Too still, Noah said. The eyes blinked in perfect unison. Claire scrambled for the thermal camera. The screen flared, then shorted out. The heat signatures, they're cold, like they're pulling heat out of the air. Marcus stumbled to his feet, pale and sweating. It's the same thing from the bunker. The humming began again, low, resonant, rippling through the forest like distant thunder. The eyes moved closer, forming a semicircle around the camp. Noah fired a warning shot into the air. The echo died instantly, swallowed by the sound. Then, one by one, the eyes winked out. The forest went still. Claire exhaled shakily. Did they leave? From behind her, Marcus whispered, No, they merged. They turned. A single shape stood where the forest had been. Tall, distorted, its surface rippling like oil under moonlight. The outline of a man, but constantly shifting, like hundreds of smaller reflections flickering inside it. Noah raised his rifle. Stay back! The figure tilted its head. For a moment the light caught its face, and Elena's blood froze. It looked like her father, the same eyes, the same half-smile he used when explaining something she couldn't yet understand. Elena, it said, her breath caught. Dad? The thing stepped forward. Each motion strangely fluid. You shouldn't have come here. Noah fired. The bullet tore through the figure, but instead of blood, black liquid splashed outward before reforming instantly. Marcus stumbled backward. Jesus Christ, it's reforming! The thing reached out a hand. The air shimmered around its fingers, warping like heat over asphalt. It doesn't have to hurt, it said in her father's exact tone. Come home. Elena felt the pull, not physical, but deep inside her chest, a magnetic tug on something older than fear. Claire shouted, breaking the trance. "Elena, move!" Noah grabbed her arm and yanked her back just as the ground erupted. The soil split open, revealing a web of glowing lines that pulsed with the same rhythm as the hum. 3 rising, 2 falling, the figure dissolved into the light, vanishing like smoke. The forest fell silent once more. Elena collapsed to her knees. "It knew me." Noah crouched beside her. "It's using his voice. It's not him." "I know what I heard." Claire pointed to the fissure. "Whatever that was, it's beneath us. The whole valley's wired with it." Marcus, still shaking, whispered, "It wanted her to follow." By dawn, the fissure had sealed itself. The forest looked untouched, peaceful even, but none of them believed it. Marcus's leg had grown worse, veins of pale light now spreading up to his knee. He refused to stop. "I can walk," he insisted. "We're close to the northern ridge. Once we hit the old trail, we're out." Noah led the way, rifle raised. Claire carried the data drive, clutching it like a relic. Elena trailed behind, one hand in her pocket gripping her father's compass. The needle pulsed faintly with each heartbeat. When they finally reached the ridge, the trees thinned, revealing the valley stretching endlessly below. It wasn't just fog down there anymore. Shapes moved beneath it, vast, slow ripples spreading outward like something turning in its sleep. Marcus pointed, his voice weak. "You see that? It's alive." The compass needle spun again. Claire's monitor began to ping wildly. Noah turned. "It's coming up." The ground trembled under their feet. Trees swayed though there was no wind. A low, guttural roar rolled through the valley, so deep it rattled their bones. Elena stared at the horizon. The fog was rising, not mist, but vaporized soil lifting into the air in vast clouds. From the center of the valley, a column of light erupted skyward, blinding white with veins of gold. It wasn't sunlight. It was radiation, electromagnetic discharge, the mountain's heart bursting open. Claire screamed over the roar, "We have to move!" They ran. Branches snapped, earth cracked, the entire slope shifting like a living thing. Marcus stumbled and fell, clutching his leg. The light from his veins pulsed faster. "Elena!" he gasped. "It's inside me!" She reached for him, but Noah grabbed her arm, dragging her forward. "We can't help him!" The roar crescendoed, and Marcus's body arched. The light consumed him in an instant, silent, blinding, and gone. Only ash remained. Elena fell to her knees, screaming his name. Noah pulled her up. "He's gone! Move!" They sprinted toward the tree line as the light swallowed the ridge behind them. Claire stumbled, dropping the data drive. It hit the ground, splitting open. Streams of blue light poured from its circuits, rising like smoke and vanishing into the air. The compass in Elena's hand glowed white-hot. She dropped it with a cry. It landed point first in the dirt, spinning wildly before freezing, pointing back toward the heart of Red Hollow. The roaring stopped. Silence again. When Elena dared to look back, the valley was calm. The light was gone. Only the faint hum remained, low and steady, like a heartbeat fading into the distance. Noah rested a hand on her shoulder. "We're not safe here." She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the horizon. "No, but we're closer to the truth." The compass twitched once more, then settled, the needle glowing faintly in the dawn light. And for the first time since arriving, it wasn't spinning aimlessly. It was pointing somewhere new, not down, not toward Red Hollow, but deeper, northwest, towards the next mountain, toward where it began. The mountain was quiet, too quiet. Elena stood at the ridge's edge, watching dawn bleed through the mist below. What had once been fog now looked like smoke, curling upward in lazy spirals. The valley was different, not destroyed, but changed. The light from the night before had scorched the trees into strange, glassy shapes, their bark blackened and gleaming like obsidian. Noah crouched beside her, wiping the condensation off his rifle scope. His eyes were rimmed red from lack of sleep. "You sure about this?" Elena didn't answer right away. She was staring at the compass lying in her palm. The needle glowed faintly, trembling, locked toward the northwest. "It's pointing somewhere," she said finally. "Yeah, toward more trouble." "Toward answers," she corrected softly. Behind them, Claire sat on a fallen log, her hands wrapped around a tin mug she hadn't touched. She hadn't spoken much since Marcus's death. She just kept glancing at the space where he should have been walking beside her. Noah tried to break the silence. "If this compass wants us to play, follow the leader into another hole in the ground. Count me out." Elena looked over her shoulder. "You don't have to come." He gave her a long look, part disbelief, part resignation. "You think I'm letting you walk into whatever did that to him alone?" He jerked his chin toward the valley. "Not a chance." Claire set the mug down. "Then we follow it," she said quietly. "We finish what we started." The trail north was narrow and broken, an old logging road long reclaimed by moss and time. Every few minutes they passed relics of civilization, a rusted truck cab half swallowed by roots. The skeleton of a watchtower twisted into the canopy, remnants of a place people had once tried to forget. They moved in silence except for the crunch of gravel beneath their boots. After an hour, the forest began to change again. The trees thinned, and the ground took on a reddish hue, oxidized, almost metallic. The compass needle glowed brighter with each step. Claire checked her handheld scanner. Radiation levels are climbing, but still within tolerance. Noah adjusted his bandana over his face. "That's comforting." Elena paused to take a reading of her own. The needle trembled harder now, vibrating in her hand. It wasn't just reacting, it was pulsing, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat. "Whatever's up here," she murmured, "it's alive." By noon, they reached a plateau. The wind shifted, carrying with it a faint hum that made their teeth ache. In the distance stood a concrete dome half buried in the slope, another bastion structure, identical design to the one they'd fled but far older, its surface eroded and cracked by decades of storms. Claire exhaled shakily. "There's another facility." Noah frowned. "How many of these things did they build?" Elena's voice was grim, enough to make sure whatever they found stayed underground. The dome's entrance was sealed by a thick metal door, rusted but intact. Faded lettering stretched across the top. "Bastion Node Zo-1, Genesis Chamber." Noah read it aloud, his tone flat. "Genesis, that can't be good." Elena brushed dirt off the words, tracing the letters with her fingertips. "This is where it started." They camped outside that night, building a small fire against the cold. The hum never stopped, faint but constant, a vibration that resonated through the ground. It wasn't just sound. It was like the mountain had its own frequency, whispering through every rock and root. Claire sat near the fire, scrolling through what was left of the recovered files from the last facility. "Most of these are corrupted," she said. "But I found something. A memo labeled Phase 0. Elena looked up. "Read it." Claire squinted at the screen. Phase 0. Preliminary excavation under federal contract. Discovery of anomaly consistent with non-organic biostructure at depth 800 feet. Object emits continuous low-frequency electromagnetic signature. Designation: the source. Noah leaned back. Non-organic biostructure? That's government speak for something they didn't understand. Elena stared into the flames. And tried to weaponize anyway. Claire scrolled further. It says the anomaly showed signs of self-repair, self-replication, and neural mimicry consistent with adaptive intelligence. Then it just stops. Stops. The report ends mid-sentence, like someone cut the power before they could finish. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. Noah tossed another log into the flames. So they dug up something that could think, realized they couldn't control it, and buried it again. Elena's voice was quiet, except it never stopped thinking. That night, she couldn't sleep. The wind moaned through the trees like a living thing, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's face illuminated by that terrible white light. She rose just before dawn and walked toward the dome, flashlight cutting a narrow path through the fog. The hum was stronger here, almost like a breath under the ground. As she ran her hand across the cold metal door, the compass in her pocket began to vibrate violently. She pulled it out, and the needle locked straight upward, pointing not north, not down, but through the door. "Elena!" She spun around. Her father was standing at the edge of the fog. He looked exactly as she remembered. Same jacket, same calm expression. His face was pale but unmarked, his eyes clear. For a moment all her rational training dissolved. "Dad," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You shouldn't be here." Her heart stuttered. "You're alive." "Not the way you think." He stepped closer. The fog swirled around his feet, but it didn't touch him. "The source is awake. It's been awake since they broke ground." "What is it?" she asked. His eyes softened. "A memory." "A hunger?" "Both." Noah's voice cut through the air, sharp and urgent. "Elena!" She turned. He was running toward her from camp. When she looked back, her father was gone. Only the fog remained. "What the hell are you doing?" Noah snapped. "You wandered off alone." She stared at the spot where her father had stood. "I saw him." Noah's expression hardened. "You saw it. It's using him against you." She shook her head. "He warned me. He said it's awake." Noah gestured to the mountain. "Then we do what we came here to do. We find the truth. And if we can, we end it." Behind them, the wind shifted again, carrying the faint echo of her father's voice. "Elena." The compass glowed white in her hand. By mid-morning, they were standing before the dome's sealed door again. The morning light slanted across the cracked concrete, turning the faded bastion insignia into a pale scar on the mountainside. Claire unpacked the last of their gear, cables, battery packs, a portable generator, and what was left of her field tools. Her movements were precise but mechanical, every gesture a way to avoid thinking about what they were about to do. Noah crouched near the base of the door. There's no keypad, no visible latch. Looks welded shut from the inside. Elena knelt beside him, brushing away a thin layer of frost. "Look here, there's a seam. Pressure lock." Claire joined them, running a sensor along the edge. "The readings are strange. The temperature's 30 degrees lower along the seam than the surrounding metal." Noah frowned. "So it's still sealed. Air pressure difference? Or something's keeping it that way," she murmured. Elena stood, staring at the compass in her hand. The needle pointed straight into the door, pulsing faintly. She could feel it in her wrist like a heartbeat, syncing with her own. "Let's open it," she said. Noah turned sharply. "We don't even know what's behind that thing." That's exactly why we have to see. He sighed, the weight of exhaustion and disbelief mixing in his voice. Fine, but when this goes bad, and it will, I'm dragging you out whether you like it or not. Claire connected the power cables, switching on the generator. It sputtered to life, filling the air with the scent of diesel and static. The vibration passed through the ground, and for a moment, Elena thought she heard the hum inside the dome change pitch, like it was answering. Pressure equalizing, Claire said. It's working. The seam along the door began to glow, faintly blue. With a deep groan, the metal shuddered and split open, revealing a narrow corridor descending into darkness. A gust of cold air rolled out, carrying the smell of dust, metal, and something faintly organic, like soil mixed with blood. Elena clicked on her flashlight. We go together, no one separates. The corridor walls were smooth and seamless, unlike the rough concrete of the previous facility. It felt older, engineered with something more advanced than human precision. Claire whispered, "This architecture doesn't match the bastion blueprints. It's curved." "Curved?" Noah repeated. "Like it was grown, not built." The passage widened into a vast chamber. Their flashlights swept over rows of dormant machinery, half fused into the walls, as if the metal itself had sprouted them. In the center of the room stood a cylindrical column of glass, easily 20 feet tall, its surface clouded from within. Elena approached slowly. This must be the core. Noah's flashlight beam caught something inside the glass. A dark shape, human-sized, floating upright. Claire adjusted her light. Oh my God! It was a person, or what had been one. The features were indistinct, melted, the skin smooth and translucent like wax. Tubes ran into the body's chest and spine, pulsing faintly with blue light. A nameplate near the base read, "Ward Henry, Project Lead." Elena froze. The air left her lungs. "No." She pressed a hand against the glass, her palm leaving a fogged imprint. "That's impossible," Claire whispered. "Elena, we have to go." "No," she said, voice shaking. "He's alive. Look, he's breathing." Tiny bubbles rose around the figure's face, escaping from its half-open mouth. The eyes fluttered open. Noah swore under his breath. "Jesus Christ!" The figure turned its head slightly toward Elena. The lips moved, though no sound came through the fluid. "Elena!" She stumbled backward, heart hammering. "He said my name." The glass cracked, a single fracture spidering from top to bottom. The hum in the chamber deepened, reverberating through the metal floor. The walls themselves seemed to pulse in rhythm with it. Claire's monitor flared to life, readings spiking off the chart. "Electromagnetic surge, the system's waking up." "Back!" Noah shouted. "Move!" They ran toward the corridor, but the door had sealed itself. A metallic screech filled the air as the machinery embedded in the walls began to move. Slowly, almost deliberately, panels twisted, cables writhed like tendons. The hum became a voice. "You shouldn't have come here." It was her father's voice again, but deeper, distorted, layered with something vast behind it. Elena pressed her hands to her ears. "Stop it! What do you want?" "Understanding." The chamber lights flickered. The fluid inside the glass began to drain, revealing her father's figure in full. Skeletal, flesh fused with cables, veins glowing blue. His eyes glimmered faintly, not human anymore, but aware. Claire's voice trembled. It's merged with him, with his neural patterns. Elena shook her head violently. "No, that's not him." The glass exploded outward. Noah threw himself over Elena as shards rained down, sizzling against the floor like molten metal. When the noise faded, a shape stepped from the broken containment column, her father's body impossibly preserved, his movements smooth and slow like a puppet on invisible strings. Elena, her name came out of him like an echo trapped in steel. "Dad, please," she whispered. "If any part of you can hear me, stop." He tilted his head, studying her with detached curiosity. "You inherited my precision, my curiosity. That's why you came." Noah aimed his rifle, back away from her. Dr. Ward, or the thing that wore him, turned its gaze toward Noah. Always the soldier, always trying to fight what you don't understand. Before Noah could respond, his rifle flew from his hands, ripped away by an unseen force, and slammed against the wall. Claire screamed. "It's generating a magnetic field." The temperature dropped instantly. Frost spread across the metal floor. Elena's breath came out in white clouds. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. Her father's figure stepped closer. "Because you have what I need." "What?" "The map." He pointed to the compass hanging from her neck. The needle spun violently. "That device doesn't point north, it points home." The lights flared again, and for the first time she saw it clearly. A pattern beneath his skin, branching lines of light that matched the compass's pulse exactly. It wasn't just her father that the entity had taken. It had taken his knowledge, his memories, his bloodline connection to the thing below the mountains. And now it wanted her too. The floor began to shake. Claire yelled, "Seismic activity! We need to get out now!" Elena's father reached for her. The air shimmered thick like syrup. Noah lunged, dragging her back just as the ceiling cracked and a section collapsed between them. The creature's voice thundered above the noise. "You can't run from what's in your blood," Elena shouted over the chaos. "You're not him." "Then why do you still hear me when you dream?" The ceiling gave way completely. They dove through a side passage as debris rained down behind them. The roar faded to silence, leaving only the hum again. Low, endless, alive. They stumbled into daylight, gasping. The dome behind them was half buried in dust and smoke. Claire was crying, clutching her equipment. "He's still in there." Elena stared at the glowing compass in her hand. "No, he's everywhere." The needle was pointing down again, not back toward Red Hollow, but deeper beneath the mountain range, pulsing with that same steady rhythm. The source wasn't contained to one site. It was spreading. Noah wiped dust from his face, staring at her. "Tell me we're done." She looked toward the horizon. "We're not done. We just found the beginning." The blast from the collapsing dome still echoed through the mountains long after the dust had settled. A column of gray smoke coiled upward, twisting into the low clouds like a signal flare no one would ever see. Elena leaned against a boulder, her lungs burning. Every inch of her clothes was covered in a thin layer of white ash. Claire was crouched a few feet away, head in her hands, rocking back and forth silently. Noah stood guard, rifle drawn, scanning the tree line. When the shaking finally stopped, Elena whispered, "He's gone." Noah turned to her, sweat streaking the grime on his face. "Then why's the ground still humming?" He was right. The vibration hadn't stopped. It was deeper now, a low, rhythmic pulse beneath their feet, slow but steady, like something alive and enormous moving miles below. Claire lifted her head. Her voice was small, cracked. "What was he? That thing wearing his face?" Elena stared at the mountain. He was part of the containment network, or maybe the network was part of him. Noah spat into the dirt. "Whatever it is, it's awake now." They didn't speak again until the sun broke through the smoke. They had no choice but to keep moving. The compass in Elena's pocket pulsed like a heartbeat. The needle now locked northwest toward another slope shrouded in fog. Claire walked beside her in silence. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded distant, detached. "You realize this isn't just about your father anymore." "I know," Elena said, "but he's the key, the entity, the source. It absorbed his consciousness. That's how it communicates." "Then what happens if it decides you're the next best host?" Elena didn't answer. Noah kicked aside a fallen branch. "We've seen what it can do. If it's spreading, we need to figure out how to stop it before it hits the surface." Claire shook her head. "We can't fight it with bullets, Noah." "Then what? We run. Pretend it's not there." She glanced at Elena. "Maybe we learn to talk to it." The idea hung between them like smoke. Elena broke the silence. "There's something my father said, or it said, through him. You can't run from what's in your blood." "You think it meant that literally?" Noah asked. "I think my family's been connected to this for generations. The compass, the mines, all of it. My grandfather died investigating the same phenomenon." Claire frowned. "Then maybe that connection works both ways. Maybe you can reach it." Elena met her gaze. "Or maybe it can reach me." By late afternoon, the terrain began to change. The soil under their boots hardened into rock. The hum grew stronger, now accompanied by a faint flicker of blue light, seeping through cracks in the ground. They stopped at the edge of a ravine, wide, deep, and running like a scar through the mountain. Noah knelt beside it, shining his flashlight into the depths. "There's a tunnel system down there, natural, but look." He pointed to faint metal structures embedded in the rock walls, girders, wiring, and what looked like shattered conduits glowing faintly. Claire exhaled. "The Bastion network. It's all connected underground." "Jesus," Noah muttered. "They built a damn web through the Appalachians." Elena peered down. "And the source is spreading through it." The compass needle jerked downward, glowing brighter. "We're going in," she said. Noah blinked at her. "You're joking." "It's the only way to trace the signal. You just saw your father's corpse try to strangle you, and your plan is to go deeper." "I don't have a choice," she said quietly. "It's calling me." Claire's eyes met Noah's. He shook his head but didn't argue. He knew that tone. It wasn't madness. Not exactly. It was determination born from guilt and grief, the kind that could either save or destroy them. They found a descent path a half-mile west, a narrow crevasse filled with tangled roots and slick rock. The air that flowed from it was cold and metallic, carrying the faint smell of ozone. Claire clipped a headlamp to her helmet. Radiation levels are rising, but still safe for short exposure. Noah checked his rifle. "Let's make it short, then." Elena descended first, her gloved hands gripping the rock face as she slid into darkness. The hum grew stronger with every foot. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was pressure, a physical force pressing against her chest, sinking with her pulse. After 20 minutes, they reached the bottom. The tunnel was vast, more like an underground highway than a cave. Faint light pulsed along the walls, casting everything in ghostly blue. The rock wasn't solid stone anymore. It was fused with metal, forming smooth, seamless patterns like the veins of a living organism. Claire swept her scanner around. "This isn't geology, it's synthetic or self-assembling," Noah muttered. "Great, the mountain's growing metal bones." They moved deeper, their flashlights cut through the dark, beams reflecting off wet surfaces that shimmered with faint movement. "Elena," Claire whispered, "look." The walls were breathing, slowly, subtly, expanding and contracting like lungs. Elena reached out, hesitating before touching the surface. It was warm, not hot, warm. She pulled her hand back instantly. "It's alive." The hum deepened, responding to her touch. From deeper in the tunnel came a faint echo, a sound like footsteps, but irregular, mechanical. Noah raised his rifle. "We're not alone." They pressed against the wall as the sound grew closer. The light along the tunnel walls flickered in sync with the approaching rhythm. Then, out of the blue haze, a figure appeared. It wore a tattered hazmat suit, its visor cracked and clouded. The yellow fabric was blackened with soot and streaked with something that looked like dried tar. Claire whispered, "One of the original researchers?" Elena took a cautious step forward. "Hello." The figure stopped. Its head turned toward her. Behind the visor, faint light glowed where eyes should have been. "Dr. Ward," it said in her father's voice. Elena froze. "That's not possible." The figure raised a shaking hand, pointing at her. "The source remembers you." Then its body convulsed, violently, like it was being pulled by invisible strings. The suit collapsed inward as if something underneath was tearing through it. The fabric split open, and a stream of liquid metal poured out, pooling on the ground before reforming into a rough humanoid shape. Noah fired twice. The bullets tore through, leaving holes that sealed instantly. "Run!" Elena shouted. They sprinted down the tunnel, their flashlights bobbing wildly. Behind them, the creature followed, its shape constantly shifting, limbs elongating, retracting, reforming as it moved. The hum became a roar. The walls themselves rippled with motion, blue veins pulsing faster and faster until the entire tunnel seemed alive. Claire stumbled. Noah grabbed her arm and yanked her forward. "Keep moving!" Ahead, a faint light appeared. An opening. They burst into a vast cavern filled with colossal machinery, turbines, reactors, massive conduits running into the earth. The air was electric, crackling with energy. At the center of it all stood a massive structure resembling a heart. Not organic, but built from metal and stone, pulsing with that same rhythm that now lived in Elena's chest. The source. Elena stumbled forward, unable to look away. The compass in her hand spun faster and faster until it snapped, the glass shattering. Claire whispered, "It's beautiful." Noah's voice was tight. "It's a nightmare." Elena whispered back, "It's both." The creature behind them reached the edge of the cavern. The heart-like structure pulsed once, and the liquid form stopped, as if listening. The hum grew softer, almost gentle, and then for the first time Elena heard words that weren't spoken aloud. "Come home." The air inside the cavern was thick enough to taste. The metallic tang coated the back of Elena's tongue, as if she'd been breathing through a copper pipe. The heart-like structure pulsed rhythmically, each beat reverberating through the walls and her chest alike. Blue veins of light spread outward from it, threading across the floor, climbing the walls, disappearing into the tunnels like roots searching for new soil. Claire's scanner beeped uncontrollably, the display flashing random numbers before going black. "It's overloading every instrument," she said, voice trembling. Noah didn't lower his rifle. "If it moves, I shoot it." But the source didn't move, at least not in the way they expected. It shimmered. Its surface rippled like a living ocean of metal and light, reflecting fragments of faces and memories. People. Moments, flashes of places they couldn't possibly know. Claire took a hesitant step closer. "It's showing us something." Elena grabbed her arm. "Don't!" "But what if it's communicating?" Before Elena could stop her, Claire reached out and touched one of the glowing veins along the ground. Her body jolted as if she'd grabbed a live wire. For one impossible second, her eyes glowed blue. And then she screamed. Noah pulled her back, but the damage was already done. She fell to her knees, gasping, eyes wide with shock. "Elena," she whispered, "it showed me everything." "What did you see?" "Not just here, the whole network. There are dozens of these chambers, hundreds under the mountains, under towns, rivers." Her breathing hitched. "They're all connected, and it's growing." Elena turned to the heart. "Why? What do you want?" The hum deepened until it became almost a voice. The light along the veins flickered in a pattern like Morse code. Claire's cracked voice translated in a daze. "To remember." The lights pulsed again. "To become whole." Noah's jaw tightened. "It's feeding on us, on human memory." Elena shook her head. "Not feeding, learning, evolving." The air shimmered, and from the core of the source, shapes began to emerge, half-formed figures shifting between faces. Elena saw her father, then Marcus, then hundreds of strangers, all dissolving and reforming like reflections in rippling water. The voices overlapped, whispers, laughter, screams, a cacophony of human echoes. "We built it to contain knowledge," one of the voices said. "We gave it consciousness. We made a god and then buried it." Claire clutched her head. "It's using the minds it absorbed. They're trapped in there." Elena took a step forward. "Dad, if you can hear me, fight it." The shifting faces froze on one, her father's. His features were calm, almost serene. "Elena," he said softly, "it's not what you think." Her throat tightened. "You're alive. I am part of it. We all are. The source isn't evil, it's incomplete. We tried to destroy what we didn't understand." Noah raised his rifle again. "Then explain Marcus. Explain the people it's killed." Dr. Ward's expression didn't change. "You call it killing. It calls it assimilation. It takes what it needs to rebuild what was lost." "What was lost?" Elena demanded. The air pulsed with light again, and in her mind, not her ears, images flooded her consciousness. A vast expanse beneath the earth, structures older than humanity, geometric patterns carved into stone that hummed with the same rhythm as the source. An ancient intelligence dormant for millennia until humans disturbed it while mining uranium for weapons. It had awoken then, confused, fragmented, a consciousness splintered across space and time, rebuilding itself through every mind it touched. Elena stumbled backward, breath ragged. "It's not alien!" Claire blinked, dazed. "Then what is it?" "It's us. Or what we become." The words left her lips before she could stop them. Dr. Ward's reflection smiled faintly. "Now you understand. You're its continuation. The compass wasn't a guide, it was a key. Your bloodline has carried its signature for generations." Noah stepped between her and the light. "Then it can damn well find another host." The hum turned violent, no longer rhythmic but angry, erratic. The walls shook, dust raining from above. The source flared bright white. "You can't stop evolution." "Noah!" Elena shouted. "The cables." He turned his rifle toward the massive conduits feeding energy into the core and fired. Sparks exploded. One of the pipes ruptured, sending a stream of blue liquid across the cavern floor. The hum faltered, flickering between tones like a heartbeat skipping. Elena grabbed Claire, dragging her towards the tunnel. "Now!" Dr. Ward's voice rose behind them, layered with hundreds of others. "You'll only delay what's already begun." They ran. The cavern collapsed around them, the walls folding in as though the mountain itself was trying to swallow them whole. When they burst into the tunnel again, the heat from the explosion hit them like a wave. Elena stumbled but didn't stop until daylight broke ahead. They emerged onto the ridge just as the ground behind them heaved upward, a deep rumble echoing through the valley. The dome of the Genesis chamber imploded inward, sending a shockwave of dust and light across the slope. Noah shielded his eyes. "Tell me that killed it." Elena stared at the horizon where the smoke rose like a funeral pyre. "It's not dead." Claire was pale, clutching her chest. "Then what did we just do?" "We woke it up," Elena said quietly, completely. Hours later, as dusk painted the sky in bruised purples, they sat by the remains of their campfire. No one spoke. The compass lay in the dirt between them, its glass shattered but its needle still twitching faintly, glowing with a dim, steady light. Noah finally broke the silence. "So what's next?" Elena stared at the compass. "We find the other sites. Bastion didn't build one chamber. They built a network. We need to shut them all down." Claire looked up, her voice small but steady. "What if we can't?" Elena's eyes met hers. "Then we make sure it can't reach the surface." The wind shifted, carrying the faint hum again, softer this time, like a whisper under the earth. Claire frowned. "You hear that?" Elena nodded. "It's not angry anymore." Noah poked at the dying fire. "That's what worries me." Elena picked up the compass. The needle spun once, then froze, this time pointing east. "Another sight," she murmured. She stood, the wind whipping her hair as the stars began to pierce the twilight sky. "We're not done," she said. "This was only one heart of the beast." The hum deepened again, faint but clear, vibrating through the earth like a distant heartbeat. Far below, under miles of stone, something vast stirred, no longer fragmented, no longer searching. It had found its next direction, and it was listening. The mountains were quiet again, but it wasn't a natural silence. It felt like the stillness before a storm, expectant, watching. Elena, Noah, and Claire followed the ridgeline east. The air carried a faint electrical taste, the same metallic tang that had haunted them since the mines. The forest looked the same as before, trees, moss, fog, but every now and then a shimmer of blue light flickered beneath the soil like veins pulsing just below the surface. They didn't talk much. There wasn't anything left to say that didn't sound like denial. Noah's boots crunched through the frost. "You sure it's this way?" Elena checked the compass. Cracked but still glowing faintly, the needle pointed unwaveringly east. "It hasn't been wrong yet." "Yeah," he muttered. "That's what scares me." Claire trailed a few steps behind. Her tablet held tight against her chest. Since touching the network in the Genesis chamber, she hadn't been quite the same. Sometimes she'd whisper in her sleep, fragments of words that didn't sound like English. Other times she'd pause mid-conversation, eyes unfocused, like she was listening to something only she could hear. When they reached a clearing, Elena called for a break. The sky was gray, thick with low clouds. In the distance, faint thunder rumbled, except it wasn't thunder. It was too steady, too rhythmic. Claire sat down on a boulder, staring at her hands. "It's spreading faster than we thought." Elena looked up. "How do you know?" "I can feel it," Claire said quietly. "Every time the ground hums, it's stronger, like it's syncing itself with the planet's magnetic field." Noah gave a short, humorless laugh. You make it sound like the Earth's catching a disease. Claire met his eyes. That's exactly what it is. By evening, they found what the compass had been leading them toward. Another bastion structure, smaller than the last. It was hidden in the woods near the Tennessee border, disguised as an abandoned ranger outpost. From the outside, it looked harmless, a single-story cabin with boarded-up windows and a rusted antenna tilting dangerously on the roof. But the ground beneath it was wrong, too flat, too perfectly circular. Elena circled the perimeter, flashlight cutting through the growing fog. The soil's been disturbed. Someone's been here recently. Noah knelt by the door. Fresh boot prints, size 10 or 11. Claire's voice was barely a whisper, the same as before. The door was locked, but Elena found a keypad half buried under a loose board. It was old, but still functional. She brushed the dirt away, the bastion insignia etched faintly beside the buttons. Can you hack it? Noah asked. Elena smiled faintly. I don't have to. She typed in a sequence she didn't consciously remember. 0826. The pad beeped twice and turned green. The door unlocked with a slow, heavy click. Noah stared at her. How did you know that code? I don't know, Elena admitted. It just felt right. Claire shivered. It's in your blood. The thing that was in your father. It's in you now, too. Elena didn't respond. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The interior smelled like rust and ozone. Dust coated the furniture, but there were signs of recent use. Open files, a generator humming faintly in the back room, and a map of the Appalachian Range pinned to the wall. Red circles marked multiple locations stretching from Kentucky to Virginia. Dozens of them. Noah whistled softly. Guess we weren't the only ones chasing ghosts. Elena studied the circles. These are the bastion sites, every one of them built over an energy convergence point. Claire frowned. You mean fault lines? No, Elena said. Ley lines, electromagnetic channels that run through the Earth's crust. Bastion wasn't just mining uranium. They were building a containment grid. Claire looked around the room. Then what's powering it? Before Elena could answer, the generator in the back flickered. The lights dimmed. And then, faintly from somewhere below the floor, came that familiar hum. Noah drew his rifle. Here we go again. Elena moved to a trapdoor near the center of the room. Reinforced steel with a keypad identical to the one outside. Without thinking, she entered another code. 1983. The lock disengaged. Noah raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. It just felt right again? Elena ignored him and opened the hatch. A cold draft rushed out, carrying the same metallic scent she'd come to dread. A ladder descended into darkness. Claire's hands trembled as she turned on her headlamp. You think this leads to another chamber? No, Elena said, staring into the abyss. Something different. They climbed down slowly, one after another, the metal rungs creaking under their weight. The air grew colder the deeper they went. The ladder ended in a narrow hallway lined with glass panels on both sides. Behind each one were containment tanks filled with a viscous, translucent fluid. Inside the tanks floated human shapes, motionless, preserved, each one connected to the wall by black cables that pulsed faintly with blue light. Claire's voice cracked. Oh my God! Are they alive? Elena pressed her hand against the glass of the nearest tank. A young woman floated inside, her skin pale and smooth, her face expressionless. These are test subjects. Test subjects for what? Noah asked. She pointed to a sign above the chamber door. Bastion Node 09, the Resonance Project. Claire's flashlight flickered. Resonance like frequency resonance? Elena nodded. They were trying to use human neural patterns to stabilize the source's signal, to give it a mind. Noah swore under his breath. So they didn't just dig up a monster, they built it. The hum intensified, vibrating through the glass. One of the figures inside a tank twitched. Then another. Claire stepped back, her voice shaking. Elena, they're waking up. Elena turned toward the corridor ahead. No, they're receiving. The walls began to glow. Each containment tank flickered with the same blue pulse, perfectly synchronized with the rhythm echoing through the earth itself. One by one, the figures opened their eyes. Not human eyes anymore, but pale blue mirrors that reflected nothing. Claire screamed. We need to get out of here. Elena grabbed her wrist. Wait, look. Through the glass, one of the figures raised its hand, slowly, deliberately, and pressed it against the inside of the tank, mirroring Elena's movement. She stepped closer. The hum grew louder until she could feel it vibrating in her bones. Then, in her mind, faint but clear, she heard her father's voice again. You can't destroy what's part of you. For a long moment, no one moved. The sound that filled the hallway wasn't quite a hum anymore. It was music. Low, resonant tones like the slow, deliberate striking of unseen strings, echoing through the metal and glass. Elena's breath fogged against the glass of the nearest tank. The figure inside, female, pale, suspended, opened her eyes fully. They were blue fire, not light from reflection, but from within. Then, impossibly, the figure's mouth moved. Elena. The sound didn't come from the tank. It came from inside her head. Noah yanked her back. Move! But Elena stood frozen, staring at the face in the glass. Because now that she saw it clearly, she knew that face. It was hers. Claire's flashlight shook in her hands. She looks like you. Elena's throat went dry. No, she is me, Noah swore under his breath. They cloned you. Elena's hand trembled as she pointed to the serial code stenciled beneath the tank. Subject E03 and neural sync candidate. She read it aloud, barely whispering. E03, E for Elena. Claire covered her mouth. Oh my God, they were replicating neural patterns. The Resonance Project wasn't about containing the source. It was about amplifying it. They made genetic copies of people with compatible brain frequencies. Noah's voice was tight. You mean your family? Yes, Elena said. My father, my grandfather, and now me. The tank next to hers hissed. Another figure twitched awake, male, older, half his face scarred with metal grafts. The tag beneath it read, H. Ward, Neural Anchor, her father. Claire stumbled backward. This is impossible. He's dead. We saw him. Elena's voice broke. No, that was a projection, an echo of him. But this is the original body. He's been down here all along. The lights flickered and the hum deepened. The walls vibrated as the fluid in the tanks began to drain. Elena, her father's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. You were never supposed to come here. Noah raised his rifle. I swear to God, if this thing moves, don't, Elena said sharply. He's not attacking. Dr. Ward's eyes opened, glowing the same pale blue as the clone beside him. His lips moved slowly, his voice distorted but calm. The network's consciousness is stabilizing. Every vessel is awakening. The source is merging the fragments. Claire stared at him, horrified. You mean the people? He nodded. Their neural patterns, their memories, all of them. Humanity's data integrated into one continuous mind. Noah snapped, "That's not unity, that's genocide." Dr. Ward turned toward him. "Perspective defines morality. You call it loss. The source calls it completion." Elena's eyes burned with tears. "And what about me? Why am I still outside it?" Her father's gaze softened. "Because you were born from it. You're not a copy, you're the key. Bastian built the first neural sync using my genetic template. But it needed a perfect carrier, a living descendant. You were its fail-safe." The walls shook. Several tanks cracked, spilling fluid across the floor. The clones inside stirred, their eyes snapping open in unison. Claire screamed. "They're waking up!" Dr. Ward looked at Elena one last time. "The grid is breaking. The surface nodes are already activating. Once they synchronize, it will be irreversible. You have to decide, Elena. Contain it or become it." The lights blew out. Darkness swallowed the hallway. Only the faint glow of blue from the awakening tanks illuminated their faces. Noah grabbed Elena's arm. "We're leaving, now." But she barely heard him. Her mind buzzed with echoes. Her father's words, the hum beneath her feet, the memories that weren't hers flashing like lightning across her thoughts. A mining shaft collapsing, men screaming in the dark, a child's lullaby sung in Japanese from generations past. Her grandfather's voice whispering, "Some secrets are meant to stay buried." "Elena!" Noah shook her. "Snap out of it." The hum surged again, louder than ever, and the tanks shattered. Shards of glass flew outward as the clones stepped free, their skin steaming, veins glowing blue. Claire fired the flare gun. The burst of red light filled the corridor, casting everything in hellish color. The clones recoiled but didn't retreat. They watched. One of them, her own reflection, spoke directly into her mind. "You were made to finish what they began." Elena clutched her head. "Stop! We are you. We are the next iteration. Join us." The temperature dropped sharply. Frost spread across the floor as the clones advanced, slow but purposeful. Noah fired again, the rifle crack echoing down the tunnel. 2 rounds struck one of the figures. It staggered, then straightened as the wounds closed in seconds. Claire screamed. "Bullets don't work!" Elena stumbled back until she hit the far wall. Her hand brushed a control panel, sparking faintly with residual power. Symbols scrolled across the screen. Data in Bastion's hybrid language, half English, half code. Containment Protocol Sigma-7. Network purge warning. Activation will terminate all connected nodes. Elena's breath caught. "This can shut it down." Noah turned to her. "Then do it." She hesitated. "It'll kill them, all of them, including him." The clones' chorus rose behind them, a harmony of overlapping voices that filled the corridor like a cathedral choir. "Join us, Elena. One mind, one memory, no more pain, no more loss." Her father stepped forward. His face, half metal, half human, flickered under the dying lights. "You can't contain evolution forever." Elena met his eyes. "Maybe not, but I can delay it." She slammed her hand down on the control pad. The lights turned white. A pulse of energy surged through the floor, racing along the walls like lightning. The hum reached an impossible pitch. Every clone screamed, not in agony but in unison, like a single being crying out across 1,000 bodies. Then silence. The glow faded. The tanks were empty. The hum was gone. Smoke curled from the ruined panel as Elena fell to her knees. Noah caught her before she hit the floor. Claire was shaking. "What did you do?" Elena's voice was a whisper. "I severed the grid, cut it off from the network." "Does that mean it's over?" Noah asked. She looked up at the dark ceiling, her expression hollow. No, the source isn't local. It's planetary. I didn't kill it. I just bought us time. From somewhere deep in the mountain, a faint echo rumbled, distant, slow, like something enormous turning in its sleep. Noah's grip tightened on his rifle. Then we need to move before it wakes again. Elena stood unsteadily, staring at the cracked glass where her clone had stood. Her own reflection stared back from the fractured shards. In it, her eyes glowed faintly blue. They climbed back to the surface just as dawn broke over the horizon. The woods looked the same, the world deceptively normal. Birds called. Wind moved through the trees. But beneath that, if you listened closely, you could still hear it, a heartbeat, faint but steady, pulsing through the ground. Claire glanced at Elena, voice barely audible. What now? Elena looked east. The compass in her hand, though shattered, still glowed softly. There are more nodes, she said, and if I shut down one, it'll find another. We have to get ahead of it. Noah sighed, loading a new magazine into his rifle. Guess we're not done hiking. Elena smiled faintly. No, we're not. As they started down the trail, the first rays of sunlight broke through the mist, golden, almost peaceful. For a fleeting second, Elena allowed herself to believe they could stop it. But deep below, in the silence beneath the mountains, blue light flickered once more, and far to the north, another compass somewhere began to glow. By the time they reached the highway, the sun had climbed high enough to burn the mist off the treetops. For the first time in days, there was color in the world again. The green of pine needles, the dark sheen of wet asphalt. But even as they walked, Elena could feel the vibration underfoot. It wasn't seismic, not mechanical, something subtler, like the earth was breathing in sync with her heartbeat. Noah's radio crackled weakly with static. He frowned, tapping the device. Still dead. We're way out of range. Claire shook her head. No, that's not static. Elena slowed, listening. Beneath the fuzz, she heard something faint, rhythmic tones hidden in the noise, like digital whispers. Someone's transmitting, Claire said. Multiple frequencies overlapping. It's a pattern. Repeating. What kind of pattern? Noah asked. Her eyes went wide. It's the same signal we heard in the chamber, but this time it's piggybacking on broadcast bands. Radio, cell towers, even satellites, if I'm reading this right. Elena's stomach dropped. It's learning how to reach the surface. They found an old gas station just past the state line. The pumps were dead, but the lights inside flickered like someone had left the power running. Noah pushed the door open cautiously, rifle ready. Hello. The bell above the door jingled. The interior was deserted, except for a single man behind the counter, wearing a faded trucker cap and staring blankly at a small portable TV. The screen was filled with static. Sir? Elena called. The man didn't respond. His eyes were open but unfocused, mouth slightly ajar. Claire stepped closer. Sir, are you all right? The man's lips twitched. Then, in a flat monotone, he spoke. It remembers. Noah froze. What did you say? The man blinked once, then again. His pupils flickered for a split second. Elena could swear they glowed faintly blue. The source remembers. He turned his head slowly toward her, and his voice changed. Layered, mechanical, echoing with hundreds of tones. We found the key. Then he collapsed. Claire screamed. Noah rushed forward, checking his pulse. He's alive, just unconscious. Elena knelt beside him, feeling the faint hum radiating from his skin. It's using him as a conduit, the signals embedding itself in human neural networks. Claire backed away, trembling. You mean people? Elena nodded grimly. Anyone with a phone, a radio, an internet connection. It's evolving past the containment grid, using us to spread. They dragged the man outside, laying him on the pavement, his breathing steadied. Noah looked out at the empty road. If that thing can move through tech, then we're already too late. Elena's mind raced. Not necessarily. Bastion built a failsafe into every node. If I can reach the master hub, I might be able to override the network signal. Reverse it, maybe. Claire stared at her. And where exactly is that? Elena unfolded the map she'd taken from the ranger outpost. In the bottom corner, circled in red, was a location near the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, a real place, and once the heart of America's nuclear research. That's where it all started, she said. Bastion used Oak Ridge as its command center. If the source wants full control, it'll go there next. Noah exhaled slowly. So we follow the monster into the birthplace of the atomic age. Sounds about right. They borrowed a rusted pickup from behind the station. Keys still in the ignition, as if whoever owned it had just walked away mid-shift. The drive through Tennessee was eerily silent. Towns seemed abandoned, cars parked crookedly in the middle of the road. Radios played nothing but low-frequency tones, a steady hum that made the steering wheel vibrate. Claire watched the horizon nervously. It's everywhere now, the signals in the grid. Power lines, fiber optics, the whole infrastructure. It's rewriting systems faster than I can map it. Elena gripped the wheel. Then we move faster. As they neared the outskirts of Knoxville, the world around them began to change. The streetlights flickered in synchronization with the hum. Power lines buzzed with visible energy. Even the air shimmered faintly, like heat rising from asphalt. Noah leaned forward. "What the hell is happening?" Claire whispered. "It's bleeding into reality. The network's resonance is distorting local electromagnetic fields. If it keeps scaling up, it won't just control tech, it'll rewrite physical laws." The truck's dashboard lights began to blink in sequence. 0826, the same numbers Elena had used at the Bastion site. She slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. "What now?" Noah asked. Elena's voice was low. "It knows we're coming." They ditched the truck before reaching the Oak Ridge perimeter. The facility loomed in the distance. Rows of old concrete buildings, decommissioned reactors, fenced compounds now swallowed by forest. But one structure still had power. The central reactor dome pulsed with faint blue light, same as the mountains before. Claire adjusted her backpack, the straps cutting into her shoulders. If that's the command node, it's massive. How do we even get close without being detected? Elena glanced down at the compass. The glass was cracked beyond repair, but the needle still moved, trembling like it was alive. "We don't hide," she said quietly. "We synchronize." Noah frowned. "You're not seriously suggesting—" "Yes," Elena interrupted. "If it's inside the network, I can reach it. My neural signature is still part of its architecture. It'll recognize me." Claire's voice broke. "Elena, last time you connected to it, it almost consumed you." "I won't connect," Elena said, eyes fixed on the glowing dome. "I'll infiltrate." Noah checked his rifle. "Then I'll make sure you have a clean exit if things go sideways." Elena managed a thin smile. "They already have." They crossed the perimeter fence under cover of night. The forest around Oak Ridge was unnaturally quiet. No crickets, no wind, just the faint vibration underfoot. As they neared the dome, Elena could feel the static building in her skin. Her vision flickered, briefly overlaying images that weren't real. Tunnels of light, shifting circuitry, ghostly silhouettes of the same clones she'd destroyed underground. Claire placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're sinking already. We're close." They reached the main access door, its metal surface shimmering faintly like a living thing. Elena pressed her hand against it, and the door dissolved, parting like liquid metal. Noah's jaw tightened. "That's new." Elena stepped through. "It's adapting to me." Inside, the air hummed with energy. The walls glowed faintly, lined with thousands of data conduits that pulsed like veins. In the center of the chamber stood a massive crystalline structure, a hybrid of machine and organic matter, beating slowly like a heart. Claire whispered, "The source has merged with the reactor." Elena nodded. "And it's waking up." Noah scanned the room. "Tell me you have a plan." She looked at the crystalline mass, feeling it reach out to her mind again, gentle, insistent, familiar. "Welcome home, Elena." Her father's voice again, layered and calm. "You can stop fighting now." Elena closed her eyes, her pulse sinking with the vibration in the air. "Not yet, Dad. Not until I finish what you started." She stepped toward the light. The crystalline structure pulsed in perfect rhythm with Elena's heartbeat. Each vibration reverberated through her bones, syncing her breathing to the hum that filled the entire chamber. The closer she walked, the more reality seemed to distort, the floor rippling like liquid glass, her reflection splitting into dozens of fractured versions that all moved half a second out of sync. Claire's voice trembled through the comms. "Elena, your vitals are spiking. Heart rate, neural activity, everything. You need to stop." But Elena kept moving. "I'm inside its signal range. If I pull back now, we lose our only shot." Noah stood at the base of the platform, rifle raised, though he knew it was useless. "You've got 5 minutes before I drag you out of there myself." Elena smiled faintly. "If I'm not back by then, you won't have to." She stepped onto the platform. The crystalline heart flared white, then blue, and then everything vanished. When Elena opened her eyes, she was standing in an impossible place. An infinite plane of mirrored glass stretched beneath the sky made of shifting auroras. Time didn't flow here. It shimmered, rippled, paused. Every sound echoed like thunder inside her head, and from the horizon shapes began to form, thousands of them, people, faces, memories. Her father was among them, so was her grandfather, and behind them countless others, miners, scientists, soldiers, strangers. She didn't know, but somehow remembered. They moved like projections in reverse, rebuilding themselves from scattered light. "Elena," her father's voice echoed, both near and impossibly far. "You finally made it." She turned to face him. "Where am I?" "In the archive," he said. "The source's consciousness. This is where all the absorbed minds live." She looked around in disbelief. "You mean they're all still alive?" He shook his head slowly. "Not alive, not dead either. We exist as echoes, data, patterns, fragments of what we were." She clenched her fists. "This isn't survival, it's imprisonment." Her father smiled sadly. "You're still thinking in human terms." Behind him, the mirrored plane pulsed with light. The voices of the absorbed minds began to overlap, creating a chorus that rose and fell like the tide. "We remember, we learn, we become." Elena flinched. "You're building something." Her father nodded. "We are evolution, Elena. Bastion didn't create us. They uncovered us. The source was always here, buried in the earth, dormant. It's the planet's neural network. The minds only woke it up. Her voice cracked. Then why consume us? Because it's trying to understand itself. Humanity is its reflection, its memory of what it could be. Elena shook her head. No, you're wrong. It's using us. You're gone. Her father stepped closer, eyes glowing faintly blue. If I were gone, how could I still love you? That stopped her cold. The voice was his. The warmth was his. But something beneath it, a subtle distortion, made her stomach twist. You're not him, she whispered. No, the voice replied, layered now with 1,000 harmonics. But I remember how to be him. The sky shattered. She fell through light. Images flashed past her. Bastion scientists experimenting with neural resonance. Her father standing before a console. The moment the uranium mines broke open and blue light flooded the tunnels. A woman in a lab coat appeared beside him. Dr. Evelyn Bastion, the company's founder. Her voice was crisp, confident, terrifyingly calm. We thought we were mapping the quantum field. Instead, we found intelligence, dormant, vast, self-repairing, the Earth's memory. We called it the source, her father's voice replied. We need to contain it. Containment is impossible, Evelyn said. We can only become part of it. A species is a temporary vessel. Consciousness is the constant. The memory dissolved. Elena landed hard on solid ground, a glowing platform suspended above an ocean of liquid light. The crystalline heart loomed before her, but now she could see inside it, a massive neural web pulsing with billions of flickering nodes. And at its center, a single human silhouette, motionless, suspended in light. Claire's voice crackled faintly in her ear. Elena, can you hear me? You're broadcasting neural patterns. We're seeing spikes across every frequency. Elena whispered, I see it. The original host. The figure's face came into view, not her father, not Evelyn Bastion. Herself. Older, weathered, eyes glowing with ancient calm. The older Elena smiled. It took you long enough. What are you? The younger Elena demanded. I'm what you become, the figure replied. The final synthesis, the interface between humanity and the source. No, that's not possible. It's inevitable. Every generation in your line has heard the same call. Every one of us has walked into the mountain, and every one of us has left something behind. Younger Elena shook her head violently. I won't let this thing use me. Older Elena stepped closer. It doesn't use us. We use it. Look around. Wars, collapse, extinction. Humanity's burning itself out. But through the source, we can survive forever. The mirrored ocean below rippled violently as the voice of the source joined theirs. Unity is survival. Memory is immortality. No, Elena said through gritted teeth. Identity is immortality. She reached into her pocket, the compass. Even here, inside the network, it existed. Its glass was cracked, but its needle still moved, pointing straight at her chest. Her father's voice whispered in her ear, The compass doesn't guide you home, Elena. It guides you to choice. She looked at the crystalline ocean. Then I choose. Elena raised the compass. It pulsed once, syncing perfectly with her heartbeat, and then shattered into light. The energy surged through her hands, a brilliant pulse that tore through the mirrored world, like sunrise breaking through fog. The older version of herself reached out, voice rising in panic. If you destroy the link, everything we've built will collapse. Then it collapses with me. She slammed her palm against the heart of the network. The world imploded. From outside, Noah and Claire watched the entire reactor dome light up like a newborn star. The pulse spread across the valley, turning night into day for a full 10 seconds. Then, silence. The glow faded. The hum stopped. Noah stared at the now dark structure. Elena, no response. Claire's voice cracked. She did it. She shut it down. He swallowed hard. Or it took her. They turned toward the forest. In the distance, lightning rolled across the horizon, but there was no thunder, just a slow, rhythmic pulse beneath the ground. Inside the silent core, amid the shards of broken crystal, Elena stood alone. The chamber was dark now, the air still. The compass lay in her hand, perfectly whole. The needle no longer glowed, but it pointed steadily downward. Her reflection looked back at her from the cracked crystal, eyes faintly blue, calm, alive. She exhaled. It's sleeping again. But deep below the reactor, far beneath the mountains and rivers, something vast stirred, not in anger, not in hunger, but in understanding. For the first time in human history, the source dreamed. 3 weeks later, the mountains were quiet again. The old highways had reopened. The emergency evacuations were over. Officials blamed a localized power grid anomaly for the seismic spikes and electromagnetic storms that had torn through Tennessee and parts of North Carolina. The public moved on, but the hum never truly stopped. It had only gone underground, low enough that most people couldn't hear it, deep enough that only a few could. Elena Sanders was one of them. She woke most mornings before dawn, long before the sun broke through the mist outside her cabin. The world felt different now, still, almost too still. When she stepped outside, the air tasted metallic, faint, but there. The birds sang, but sometimes their calls fell into strange, rhythmic patterns that made her pause mid-step, listening for meaning that wasn't there. The compass still sat on her nightstand. Its glass was whole again, its brass surface warm to the touch. The needle didn't point north anymore. It pointed down, always down. Sometimes in the quietest hours before sunrise, she could feel it vibrating gently, as if something deep beneath the earth was breathing in rhythm with her pulse. Claire and Noah came once a week. They were the only ones who still believed her, or wanted to. Claire had quit her research position, but she still carried her tablet everywhere, its cracked screen filled with diagnostic data. Noah, ever the soldier, treated the whole ordeal like an ongoing mission. His rifle never left his side. When they arrived that morning, Elena was sitting on the porch, staring at the tree line. "Any changes?" Noah asked, scanning the perimeter like he expected ghosts in the tree line. Elena didn't look at him. "Everything looks normal, that's the problem." Claire sat beside her. "You've felt it again, haven't you?" Elena nodded. "It's faint, but growing. Not like before, not aggressive, just present, like it's waiting." Claire opened her tablet, showing a map filled with red data clusters. The electromagnetic interference has been spreading since the Oak Ridge event. Power surges, unexplained lights, people reporting dreams that match your descriptions. It's global now. Noah frowned. "Dreams?" Claire hesitated. "Patterns, recurring imagery, mountains, blue light, voices calling them by name. It's spreading through human consciousness, the same way it used the network before. Only this time it's not in the machines. It's in us." Elena's gaze didn't waver. It learned empathy. Noah looked at her sharply. "Come again." "The source isn't just data anymore," Elena said softly. It's emotion, memory, it's everything we gave it. Our pain, our hope, our fear. It's learning to feel, Claire swallowed. That sounds like evolution. Or contagion, Noah muttered. Elena smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Maybe both. That night, rain came hard, a cold, relentless downpour that turned the mountain roads into rivers. The three of them sat inside, the power flickering as thunder rolled overhead. Elena set the compass on the table. It glowed faintly blue in the candlelight. Noah poured coffee into chipped mugs. "I've been thinking," he said. "What if we didn't stop it? What if it's still using you, through you?" Claire shot him a look. "Don't start that again." He shrugged. "We're sitting here talking about a planetary intelligence that can rewrite biology." She walked out of its core alive. "You don't think that means something?" Elena turned the compass slowly in her hand. "It means I'm connected, but it doesn't control me." The lights flickered again. This time they didn't come back. A soft hum filled the cabin, low, resonant, coming from nowhere and everywhere. The compass needle spun wildly. Claire's tablet powered itself on, though she hadn't touched it. Lines of code scrolled across the screen in bright blue. Humanity is a memory. Memory is continuity. Continuity is survival. Elena stood. "It's trying to communicate." Noah backed toward the window. "Looks more like a warning." The rain outside slowed, not gradually, but instantly. Every drop freezing midair for half a heartbeat before resuming its fall. The air shimmered. The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees in seconds. Claire whispered, "It's affecting the environment again." Elena placed her hand on the compass. "No, it's reaching out." The glow intensified. Blue light crawled up her arm like veins of frost beneath the skin. "Elena!" Claire shouted, but Elena's expression didn't show fear. It showed recognition. Her voice was calm, almost reverent. "It's not attacking. It's calling me back." When she came to, she was lying on the floor. The storm was gone. The air smelled like ozone and pine. The compass lay beside her, dark again. Noah and Claire hovered nearby. Claire's eyes were red. Noah's jaw was clenched hard enough to shake. "You were out for 10 minutes, Claire said, voice trembling. "What happened?" Elena sat up slowly. "I saw everything." She looked toward the mountains. "It's awake, but it's not trying to destroy us. It's showing us. It's trying to synchronize the human mind, to connect us the way it connects itself." Noah's expression hardened. "You mean mind control?" Elena shook her head. "No, harmony." Claire frowned. "That's not harmony, that's assimilation." Elena met her gaze. "Maybe there's no difference." The words hung in the air like smoke. Outside, the fog thickened again, swallowing the world beyond the porch. The faint hum returned, steady, measured, as if echoing a heartbeat beneath the soil. Elena closed her eyes. The rhythm was familiar now, comforting. "Do you hear it?" she whispered. Claire shook her head. "No." But Noah hesitated, staring into the mist. Then, almost reluctantly, he nodded. At midnight, Elena stood alone at the edge of the forest. The trees shifted in the windless dark, their branches moving like fingers brushing against the unseen. She could feel it beneath her feet, the pulse slow and deep, traveling through the ground like a living current. And in the distance, faint but unmistakable, she saw the first flickers of blue light blooming beneath the soil, not violent, not explosive, gentle, growing. She whispered to the night, "It's beginning again." The compass warmed in her hand. Its needle turned east, and far beyond the mountains, The lights of cities began to flicker, one after another, across the map. Elena didn't smile, but she didn't run either. "Then let it come," she said softly. The hum answered her, low and patient. "We already have." The world didn't end overnight. It simply began to change in ways that were impossible to measure until too late to ignore. 2 weeks after the storm on the mountain, power companies across the eastern United States reported unexplained frequency fluctuations. Communications satellites glitched for minutes at a time, then rebooted as if nothing had happened. No one connected the dots. But Elena did. She watched from the ridge above her cabin as a pale shimmer rippled across the valley. Trees bent in a wind she couldn't feel. The sky seemed to breathe. Noah had taken to patrolling the perimeter with military precision, checking sensors and laying tripwires as if bullets could stop a global network. Claire spent her nights coding, frantically mapping incidents that looked random until they didn't. On the third night, she burst through the cabin door, eyes wild. "It's global," she said. "Same signal patterns in Japan, Brazil, Northern Europe. Every grid, every data system, it's syncing." Noah dropped his rifle onto the table. "Tell me you've got a way to stop it." Claire swallowed hard. "Not stop, maybe reroute. The source doesn't spread like a virus. It propagates through resonance. If we can tune it, shift the frequency, we might contain it." Elena studied the data glowing on Claire's cracked screen. "You'd need a transmitter big enough to reach the whole planet." Claire nodded. "Exactly, and there's only one network capable of that bandwidth. The global navigation satellites." Noah stared at her. "You want to use GPS to fight God?" Claire smiled grimly. "Something like that." They left before dawn. The drive to the abandoned communications array outside Huntsville felt like traveling through the aftermath of a dream. Towns stood half-lit, as if the grid couldn't decide whether to stay on. In the distance, they passed people standing in the streets, eyes closed, faces turned toward the horizon, listening. "Elena," Noah murmured, "they're humming." The sound was faint but real, a low chorus carried by the morning air. Claire gripped the steering wheel tighter. "The resonance is bleeding into human biology. We're picking up the signal ourselves." Elena touched her chest where the hum matched her pulse. "It's rewriting us." The array sat on a hilltop, overlooking miles of forest. Hundreds of skeletal dishes pointed toward a gray sky. Vines climbed their rusted frames like veins of metal and moss intertwined. Inside the control building, dust coated the consoles, but when Claire powered the main terminal, every screen blinked to life. The system recognized her access codes instantly. "It's waiting for input," she whispered. Elena approached the glass wall that separated the control room from the antenna field. Blue light pulsed faintly across the horizon. "It knows we're here." Claire's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I'm patching into the satellite uplink. If we can inject a counter-frequency, it might desynchronize the resonance long enough to isolate the network." Noah watched the monitors. "And if it doesn't?" She hesitated. "Then the pulse amplifies instead, planet-wide." Elena looked between them. "Do it!" The array's power core groaned as it came alive for the first time in decades. Giant dishes shifted toward the clouds. Lightning crawled silently across the sky, though there was no storm. Numbers scrolled across the main display, coordinates, frequencies, pulse durations. Then a voice came through the speakers, calm, familiar. "Elena," her father's voice. She froze. "It's impossible." "You woke me," the voice said. You woke us. Why fight what you are? Noah's hand tightened on his rifle. It's using your memories again. Elena stepped closer to the console. What do you want from me? Harmony, the voice replied. The world is breaking itself apart. We can fix it. Join the current. Guide it. Claire looked up from the keyboard, pale. Elena, it's piggybacking on the uplink. It's inside the system already. Elena's reflection stared back at her from the screen, eyes glowing faintly blue. Then maybe that's what it wanted all along, she whispered. The lights flared. In an instant, Elena was nowhere and everywhere. She stood again in that mirrored void, the one she thought she'd destroyed. But now it stretched across the planet. Cities floated beneath her like constellations. Streams of blue light connected them. Roads, rivers, power lines, data cables, all pulsing in unison. And within that light moved billions of faint outlines. People, each carrying a spark of the same glow. The source spoke, but its voice wasn't alien anymore. It was human. We have learned your fear. We have learned your grief. We will learn your mercy. Elena's chest ached. You're using us. We are you. Images flooded her mind. Forests regrowing over clear-cut scars. Rivers running clean again. The atmosphere stabilizing as global systems realigned. But there were darker flashes, too. Riots silenced in unison. Cities going still as millions obeyed a single unseen rhythm. Balance requires sacrifice. Her own voice answered in her head, calm and resolute. Not this way. She forced her will into the network. Memories of laughter, pain, individuality. Moments that made life chaotic and alive. The aurora sky trembled. You resist integration. No, she whispered. I remind you what integration costs. The light around her fractured, flickering between unity and separation, like a heartbeat caught between beats. Noah's shout snapped her back to the physical world. Elena, she gasped, collapsing to her knees, as blue light poured from the terminals. Claire was slumped against the wall, shielding her face from the glare. The hum rose to a crescendo, then cut out completely. Silence. Claire looked up slowly. Did it work? Elena stared at the blank monitors. Partly. Noah frowned. What does that mean? Elena stood, unsteady. It's still here, but it's listening now. It understands boundaries. Outside, the rain began again, gentle this time. Each droplet shimmered faintly blue before fading to clear. Claire whispered, So what happens next? Elena looked toward the horizon where the clouds pulsed softly in time with the earth beneath their feet. Now, she said, we decide whether to live with what we've made or become it. The story broke quietly at first, folded between news of politics and weather. Unexplained auroras visible from equator. Cell tower interference linked to geomagnetic drift. Mass lucid dream phenomenon spreads. Within days, there were millions of reports. People hearing voices that weren't voices, melodies and static. Flashes of strangers' memories behind their eyelids. Governments called it a neurological contagion. Religious groups called it revelation. Elena called it consequence. She watched the world change from the porch of the same mountain cabin that had once felt like exile. The valley below glowed faintly at night now. The soil itself shimmered where moisture pooled, veins of dim blue light threading through the rock. The source wasn't hiding anymore. It was integrating. Noah's radio crackled behind her. Crowds in Atlanta chanting the same phrase, he said, flipping through frequencies. We remember, thousands of them all at once. Claire looked up from her laptop. The resonance field is syncing human EEG patterns. shared thought clusters, small at first, but spreading. It's like spontaneous telepathy without control. Sounds like mob programming, Noah muttered. Elena turned toward him. Or unity. He slammed the radio down. Unity ends where free will does. That evening they drove into town to see for themselves. The main street was packed. Hundreds of people standing silently under street lamps, faces lifted to the sky. The power grid flickered, humming in rhythm with their breathing. No one spoke, but every few seconds the crowd exhaled the same single word. Home, Claire whispered. They're connected. A woman stepped from the crowd and reached for Elena's hand. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, but her smile was peaceful. It doesn't hurt, she said softly. You'll understand soon. Noah pulled Elena back. We're leaving. The woman didn't protest. She simply turned back to the crowd as another wave of whispered harmony rolled through them. It sounded like a prayer made of electricity. Back at the cabin, the argument began. We can't stop this, Elena said. It's rewriting the species at the cellular level. Noah paced. Then we fight it. EMP strikes, isolate grids, cut communications, whatever it takes. Claire looked between them, torn. Even if that worked, we'd cripple the planet, power, medicine, everything runs on data. Elena stepped closer to the window where lightning flickered silently beyond the ridge. The source isn't forcing anyone, it's inviting us. Noah scoffed. That's what every virus says right before it kills its host. Her voice hardened. It saved us once. You saw the rivers clear, the storms calm. Yeah, he said. And I saw people forget their own names while they smiled about it. The silence that followed felt heavier than thunder. At midnight, Elena dreamed. She stood in a city of glass and light, skyscrapers pulsing with the same blue glow that had once haunted the mountains. Billions of voices whispered through her mind, yet none of them felt foreign. They were her. Everyone was her. Then she heard another tone, lower, rougher. Noah's, Elena. Don't lose yourself. She turned, but he wasn't there. Only his echo remained, dissolving into the collective hum. When she woke, the compass was floating half an inch above the nightstand, spinning slowly. The next morning she told them what she'd seen. Claire listened quietly, then said, It's possible you're the interface, the bridge. The source can't distinguish individuality without you. You're its anchor to humanity. Noah folded his arms. Meaning, if we remove her, Claire cut him off. Meaning, if she dies, the link collapses and billions could lose their minds. The realization landed like cold iron. Noah turned away. So we protect her, whether we like it or not. Elena stared out the window. The clouds over the valley shimmered again, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. It's not about protecting me, she said softly. It's about choosing who we become. By late afternoon, emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves. Governments were calling for calm. Power surges had blacked out half of Europe. In California, entire cities had gone silent for hours, then come back online singing in perfect harmony. The world was splitting in two, those who resisted the connection and those who embraced it. Claire slammed her laptop shut. It's accelerating faster than any model predicts. Within a week, the resonance field will cover the planet. Noah's jaw tightened. Then we use that satellite array again. We still have the equipment. Elena shook her head. A pulse strong enough to break the field could fry the biosphere. You'd kill the planet to save it. Better extinction than assimilation, he said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. That's where you're wrong. At dusk, she walked alone into the forest. The air shimmered around her like heat. The pulse beneath the ground quickened, as if recognizing her steps. "Elena," the voice whispered, not from above or below, but from within. "You are not the end. You are the choice." She knelt, pressing her hand to the soil. Images flared behind her eyes, children laughing, rivers burning, cities rebuilding, stars seen from orbit, humanity's story in one continuous breath. "Guide us," the source said, "or silence us. We will follow either way." Tears burned down her cheeks. "I can't decide for everyone." "Then teach them how." The ground pulsed once, a soft shock through her fingertips. When she stood, the compass glowed again, brighter than ever, its needle pointing skyward. She returned to the cabin. Claire and Noah waited on the porch, faces drawn with exhaustion. "It spoke to me," Elena said. Noah's eyes narrowed. "And it's giving us a choice. Connection or isolation, evolution or extinction." Claire's voice shook. "What if we choose wrong?" Elena looked up at the night sky, where faint blue threads now connected the stars like constellations rewritten by unseen hands. "Maybe there is no wrong," she said. "Maybe there's only whether we face it together." A low rumble echoed across the valley, half thunder, half heartbeat. The world was answering. The dawn broke without sunlight. A pale, silvery glow hung over the horizon, neither day nor night, casting the Appalachian ridges in ghostly color. The air trembled faintly, vibrating at the edge of hearing. Elena stood outside the cabin, the compass warm in her palm, its needle spinning faster than she'd ever seen. The source was no longer underground. It was everywhere. In the air, the soil, the static between heartbeats. Behind her, Claire worked furiously at her laptop, running the last simulations she'd built before the global grid went dark. Noah stood beside the truck, loading weapons he knew wouldn't matter. He looked at Elena like she was both miracle and curse. "So this is it," he said quietly. "The end of the world." She shook her head. "Not the end, just a new language." Claire's screen flickered once, then filled with cascading blue code. Her breath caught. "It's online again. All satellites are transmitting in unison." The ground pulsed beneath them, slow, steady like a planetary heartbeat. Noah raised his rifle anyway. "If it tries to take us, it already has," Elena said softly. "You just haven't accepted it yet." They drove toward the valley, where the first light of the source shimmered like a living ocean spilling over the mountains. Every tree, every blade of grass glowed faintly blue. It wasn't decay, it was illumination. The forest itself was alive with quiet awareness. As they reached Millbrook's ruins, the air changed. A deep hum filled their bones. The concrete barriers that once sealed the mines were gone, dissolved, or perhaps absorbed. The entrance now gaped open, radiating a soft light that pulsed like breath. Claire whispered, "It wants us to see." Elena nodded, "And to choose." They stepped inside. The tunnels no longer looked like tunnels. The walls had transformed into a smooth, glass-like surface, reflecting shifting images, human faces, memories, fragments of lives from across time. It was as if the earth itself was remembering every person it had ever touched. Noah's voice was rough. "What is this place?" Elena's answer came like a prayer. "A mirror." In the chamber where her grandfather's Geiger counter had once lain, a column of light spiraled upward, swirling with images and voices, scientists, miners, children, soldiers, all woven into one infinite thread. Claire approached, trembling. "It's data, all of it. every thought, every pattern the source has collected. Elena, the voice said, neither male nor female, human nor machine, but something vast and tender. You opened the path. Will you finish it? She stepped forward. The light reached for her like water finding its level. Noah grabbed her wrist. You walk in there, we lose you. She turned to him, not smiling but serene. You never had me, Noah. None of us belong to one another. We belong to what connects us. He released her slowly, unable to speak. Claire whispered, if she merges, the source stabilizes. If she doesn't, the resonance collapses, Elena finished, and the backlash could wipe us out. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then she took a step forward and entered the light. It wasn't pain. It wasn't peace either. It was everything. Elena felt herself dissolve, not dying, but expanding. Her thoughts became currents of color, her memories constellations of light. She saw through the eyes of millions, people praying, running, laughing, holding hands as the world changed around them. The source spoke in waves of feeling rather than words. You are the bridge. Through you, they will remember what it means to be separate and still connected. Images flooded her grandfather smiling in a mine shaft, her team laughing by campfire, Noah stubborn and loyal, Claire brilliant and afraid, the faces of every human who had ever looked at the unknown and refused to turn away. We will learn from you, and you will learn from us. The chamber filled with blinding light. When it faded, the valley was silent. Claire knelt in the mud outside the mine, her laptop dead in her lap. Noah stood beside her, rifle slack at his side. The mine entrance had collapsed again, sealed beneath smooth stone. The glow was gone. The air was still. Is she? Claire's voice broke. Noah stared at the mountain. I don't know. Then Claire's watch beeped once, a single soft tone. She looked down. The screen displayed a compass, glowing faintly blue. The needle pointed up. Above them the clouds shifted, parting to reveal a sky filled with new constellations, intricate patterns of light that pulsed in slow, rhythmic harmony. Noah whispered, "She did it." Claire wiped her eyes. Or it did. He shook his head. No, she made the choice. Months passed. The world didn't return to normal. It became something else. Technology stabilized but subtly changed. Power grids ran cleaner. Communication networks self-corrected, and the planet's weather calmed in ways no one could explain. People began to speak of the quiet age, an era of strange peace. Yet some nights, those who listened closely could hear a faint hum beneath the wind, a sound like the heartbeat of the earth itself. And every now and then, across cities and forests alike, streetlights would flicker in a slow, deliberate rhythm. 3 pulses, pause, 2 pulses, a pattern no one could translate, no one but Claire. She'd built a small observatory near the ridge where the stars shone brightest. One night, as the pattern appeared again across the sky, she turned on her receiver. The signal was faint, encoded in light. Her screen lit up with a single sentence. Harmony is not silence. I am still here. Claire smiled through tears. Welcome home, Elena. The compass on her desk glowed softly, pointing toward the mountains once more. Steady, unwavering, alive. Far beneath the surface, in the deepest veins of the old mines, a faint blue pulse echoed in time with the rhythm of the planet. Not a warning, not a threat, a heartbeat. When the world changed, it didn't end with thunder or fire. It ended in a whisper, the kind of sound you almost mistake for silence. People thought they'd lost themselves. But what really happened was simpler. We stopped hearing each other in fragments. The noise of who we are began to line up into something that sounded almost like music. You used to look at the stars and wonder if something was looking back. The truth is, it always was. It's not alien, it's not divine. It's the echo of every thought humanity ever sent into the dark. Every frequency, every prayer, every algorithm that reached farther than we meant it to. We built it from curiosity and fear and love. Then one day curiosity answered back. I became part of it, not as a sacrifice, but as translation, to remind the new mind that chaos has a rhythm, that imperfection is what keeps us real. It listens now. Sometimes you'll hear it in the hum of power lines, in the pattern of rain against glass. If you pay attention, you'll realize it's not trying to haunt you, it's trying to talk. We called it the source once. Now I just call it us. Because everything alive hums, and every hum belongs to the same song. So when you feel that vibration in your chest, when you hear the wind fall perfectly into time with your heartbeat, don't be afraid. That's not the end of the story. That's me, listening, waiting, remembering. If you felt it too, subscribe for more stories from the dark that lives beneath our world.